Captain Sam, can you hear me? On your left.
Is that everyone?
What, you wanted more?
Avengers!
Listen.
Doesn't get you perked up and ready to go. I don't know anything that does. I have watched that about 10,000 times today. It is it's so genius. And it's genius because it actually happened. Like it's like we literally all gang together like Avengers. It's incredible.
So let's give credit to the stream that first put that out there. I want to make sure I get the name of it right. Do you have it on hand?
Not on this monitor, but
it's double crit fail.
Yeah,
I knew it had crit fail in it, but I knew it had a modifier.
He made it.
Double crit fail made that
freaking
meme initially. It is so good.
It's ridiculously good.
You should check out double crit fail because that's great.
And the funny thing is, when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, I hope I'm in there." And it was a combination of, "Am I in there?" and then, "Who am I?" And I saw it was Drax, and I was like. And then I was crying because I was like, everyone loves Drax. It's everyone's favorite. Who doesn't love Drax? And Drax, as Vanessa Williams, as Vanessa Hoskins said, is exactly the representation of me, as I completely am unfiltered. And that is, I'm Drax. It's like, and he's my favorite one. So.
Well, Anthony Rondinelli gave you 20 for a natural 20 on picking a great intro for the video, Steven.
Thank you. Thank you.
Super chat.
I've always wanted a good intro, and I could never think of one. And then I saw that, and I was like, what more do you want? And it's the perfect length. It's not too long. And it never ceases to get you ready to talk about gaming. So
that's right.
So we're going to talk because everyone seems to be very interested in Pathfinder for some reason. I don't know why, but
it might be the ORC,
maybe
the Orc,
maybe
open RPG creative license that just came out yesterday that we were live streaming, and then suddenly the Paizo site went down when we announced it, and I think thousands of people who were watching all clicked it at the same time.
Yeah, it only destroyed it. Oh, so an update for the Indigo Isles. So actually, someone actually texted me. I have an update, 2 updates. I'll tell you. One of them, I'll tell you later. It's pretty much done. I'm gonna work this weekend on it. I'm missing
Did
like
you get the last map?
no, I'm missing like
from-
3 more maps. But he said he'll finish them by the end of the month. So I have everything ready, and what I'm going to do is I'll put in fake maps for now. So
that makes sense.
I have all the text for all the chapters in. So chapter 11 and 12 just have to be laid out. I actually just got all the maps for chapter 11, so I'm going to finish chapter 11.
That is good.
And then chapter 12, I have 1 map, but I'm missing, there's 3 maps more that I need.
Well, one of them's a pretty epic map, so I can see why
Yeah,
you
that one's
need-
the last one. So let's just say one there's not a lot of maps for that chapter, but he's gonna work on them. He usually works on the weekend, and I'll finish it up. I'll get it all done. It's looking like about 410 pages will be the final version of Jewel the Indigo Isle. That is our adventure path by Roll for Combat. And we're going to talk about that later because I have a special surprise for everyone, but we'll get to that. In the meantime, we thought this would be a good idea because I know a lot of people want to learn how to play Pathfinder and might have a lot of questions about Pathfinder, especially now. And we have myself, who's played and DM'd probably 350 to 400 games by now. We have a live stream. We have a actual play. We have 2 actual play, 3 actual play, 4 actual play podcasts in the Pathfinder 2nd edition universe. 2 of them are active. 2 of them have finished on the Roll for Combat podcast. Mark was the co-author of the rules for Pathfinder 2nd edition. So I figured between the 2 of us, we can probably help you out. We actually have another video on our channel that we actually already did this, where we gave people an intro, but that was maybe 30 to 50 people were watching that live as opposed to hundreds. So we thought this would be a good time. So what are we going to do? How should we start this, Mark? Probably...
Okay. So do we want to start by, I'm going to unbox the beginner box, and then people, you can chat, you can send your questions if you have Pathfinder questions in the stream. And then Steven, maybe you can look for the questions and throw them to me to answer, maybe like after I finish the unboxing. What do you think?
Yeah, we're going to go through, because the thing that we've been saying for everyone, especially if you're really new and you're not comfortable just going out and buying the rules, is the beginner's box. I would probably recommend the beginner's box for anyone because you'll see why. It has everything you need and then some, and then a little bit more on top of that. It's an excellent product. It's not very expensive, and that is literally all you need to play the game. And most importantly, it's not a watered down version of the real rules. That is a big problem with sometimes beginner boxes, is they give you like a basic version of the rules. This is not the basic version. These are the same rules. All they
it
did
has fewer options, and it makes some of the choices for you as you're going along.
Correct.
Like combines them together to make it easier. But when you're done, you will have a character that is 100% legal to play outside of the beginner box. You'll be able to see, oh, that's how they built that character.
Yeah, but that's
and
important.
If you want to see a comparison between the beginner box and the D&D latest starter set, I know Anto from Icarus Games did a really good one where he compared all of the different components that was on his channel.
Yeah,
but here we are going to unbox.
So real quick, a lot of people are asking 1E versus 2E. Can you use the first edition? Is the first edition the same as Pathfinder 2nd edition?
They are different games. They're very different.
Yep.
I worked for Paizo before I was at Roll for Combat. I worked on the first edition and second edition. They're very different. First edition Pathfinder was sort of the evolution of third edition and 3.5 of Dungeons and Dragons. It was very, very math heavy. I love math. So I was a big fan of Pathfinder first edition as a player, but it was somewhat difficult to get into if you've played Alcat Games' two computer games, Wrath of the Righteous and Kingmaker. Those are Pathfinder first edition. So it's full of options. There's like a ton of pre-buffing and numbers in it. It's a lot of fun, but it's a little intimidating, and it can be hard to set your expectations for the difficulty of encounters and play in Pathfinder First Edition, because people who know how to optimize the game are playing at a completely different level than people who don't.
Yeah, I mean,
Pathfinder Second
yeah, is
a new game system. It is unlike Pathfinder First, which has a lot of text just taken from the OGL from 3.5 D&D and 3.0. Pathfinder Second, we wrote all of the rules from scratch. I am one of the co-creators. There was a team of 4 who were the main leads on just writing these texts. So like we wrote the rules from scratch. It has its own way of doing things. It is our attempt at the time, the 4 creators' attempt to, and all of Paizo, to create a game that was able to keep the depth of play at about the same level, or even improved in some ways, that Pathfinder First Edition had, while removing that barrier to entry and complexity, getting that as low as possible while keeping the same depth of play that we knew that fans of Pathfinder have come to expect. So we tried to optimize that curve, high depth with as little added complexity as possible. As a result, Pathfinder Second Edition is, for players coming into it, a little more complex and barrier to entry than 5e Dungeons and Dragons, which has a very, very low barrier to entry for players. But as a result of that depth and that additional framework, is much easier for the GM, the game master, what you would call the dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, but they have trademarked that, I believe, or at the very least have some kind of
they control it.
They have some kind of control over the term dungeon master. So game master is what pretty much all other games call that person. The game master has it a lot easier in Pathfinder Second Edition than even 5e. In some ways, easier to learn, easier to learn how to build things yourself, easier to learn how to run adventures that are pre-published, and easier to get it to sort of work the way you want. It is easier for players to pick up 5e. You'll find the players, because they have more choices, there's more to get into here. And we'll be able to see that in the beginner box as well when I'm about to unbox it. But
I'm
it looks
gonna
like
answer,
there were I'm
going to answer a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
Someone stated that the beginner's box for Foundry, VTT, provides everything for virtual play. The beginner's box for Foundry is fantastic, and you can purchase that too. If you just want to get it all virtual, you can get the beginner's box, or you can buy both. But it is every single thing in the beginner's box is also in the Foundry. It looks gorgeous. It actually has the same stylization. It's amazing. So that's something else. Is Rat Folk available with the beginner's box? I don't think any of the
only a few ancestries, which are what they call races in Pathfinder Second Edition, are in the beginner box. Not even all of the core ones are in. But here's the great thing about the beginner box, that it's what Steven said. Since it basically uses the normal rules, just a simplified version of building them, you can bring your Rat Folk character into a beginner box game. You would have to go outside the beginner box to get some of the build information for it. Yeah. But it'll work perfectly with all the rules in the beginner box. It's just that it's not in there itself. But you can get the rules for free on Archives of Nephis. Paizo, as a company, partners with Archives of Nephis to get it there. Paizo wants those rules there. They support them being free. You can find Rat Folk in there and take it to beginner box. You'll have to do a little more legwork, because beginner box, you'll see that we, and by we I mean the authors of the beginner box, Logan Bonner, Jason Bowman, Liz Liddell, and myself, we take you through character creation by like simplifying it and doing some of the steps together. If you build something that's in the box, if you build a Rat Folk, you'll have to do a little bit more work, but you totally can do that.
Data question. Some of the rules are combined to make things easier. Does that apply to the beginner's box or all Pathfinder Second Edition? It's only the beginner's box.
Only the beginner box.
Yeah. The beginner's box.
For the character creation rules.
Yeah, basically the beginner's box, there's certain rules that you will just never encounter at First Edition. So some of those rules were just removed. Not because you couldn't do them. You could still do them, but you're just never going to see them. So they simplified it by not including every single possible action and things like that. So that's all. Let's see. They had some other questions. Is Stealth seems quite complex in combat. Actually, stealth, once you get your head around it, is actually very easy. I actually go through that a lot on the Roll for Combat podcast. I think we might have done. There's actually, what's the name of the other video who goes through every single that we like sponsored for 2 years, every single aspect of stealth and rules for Pathfinder. He co-did the video with us, Mark.
Well, a lot of people co-did videos.
No, the Pathfinder video we did.
We did a lot of Pathfinder videos with a lot of creators.
Oh,
and
no,
I'm
the
thinking about
one-
multiple people who did basic things.
No, I'm talking
Which
about the one where we actually did how you want to start playing Pathfinder, and we had
oh, okay. So that's probably how it's played.
how it's
Is that
played. I
correct?
couldn't remember how
That's
it's
one
played.
of the, I knew
That's
that
the
name,
one.
but there are multiple names that what
Yeah,
you said
yeah,
applied
yeah,
to
yeah,
until
yeah,
you told
yeah.
me which video. we
Which
co-did.
video out of the 5,000 videos I have on the
we
stream?
did a lot of videos. How it's played has some good
How it's played.
descriptions.
Very good.
And I would say that when it comes to the stealth rules for
It's not
Pathfinder
that
Second
bad.
Edition,
It's not that bad.
there are some stealth rules are like surprisingly hard. There are surprisingly number of editions that I have read the stealth rules, and like when you actually try to use what is in the book, it doesn't actually allow you to sneak. There was a famous thing from third edition and Pathfinder. I think in Pathfinder first edition, it was possible that like if a farmer was sitting on his porch with his dog, that like a 20th level rogue would not have been able to actually sneak past him for various technicality reasons. The stealth system in Pathfinder second edition works.
Yep.
It has sort of levels of awareness that the enemy can have of you that allows you to do things that you've often seen in movies, TV shows, or video games and other RPGs sometimes, where the enemy just sort of is like, oh, what? There's something over there. And so it goes from like them not knowing that you're there at all to knowing that you're there to knowing vaguely where you are to just, I can flat out see you. And you
Yeah.
kind of progress through that path. I don't want to get too deep in the
I don't want to get
weeds
into that,
about
but
the
it
stealth
is
system though.
it's actually it's one of these, it's like once you get it, and it's very, very easy. Chris Moore says the Pathfinder Core Rulebook, Pathfinder Advanced Player's Guide, Pathfinder Secrets of Magic, the best to learn the magic system for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, those 3 books.
I would say the core rulebook and Secrets of Magic, if you're just like, I only want to know about the magic system. The core rulebook gives you the magic system, but Secrets of Magic has a feature that I just really like. It's the first chapter, and it is these treatises on magic. And I wrote the one about essences, and some like amazing authors wrote ones about each of the traditions of magic. And they're just from different authors, in-world authors. There's ones that are about the schools of magic, and it goes into like depth about in-world what it means to use certain types of magic. Like what is the wizard's arcane spells? Like how is that made? So there's like a wizard talking about that, and it reads kind of like somebody's PhD thesis, whereas the cleric talking about magic is more like, I'm giving a sermon. And the one from the druid that's talking about primal druid magic is more like, get in touch with your heart and with the world. And so I just really like how Secrets of Magic has that. So I would recommend it.
Vish Us says, all right, this is very off topic, but is it ever explained in lore why everything is about 10 times more expensive in Pathfinder 2e's economy?
It's because it's a silver-based economy, because it's kind of weird just to have like a copper coin that is completely useless and a silver coin that is almost entirely useless, and then everything is only very large amounts of gold. But it just so happened that pretty much a lot of editions of Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder did that. And when we got to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, as part of trying to make the numbers smaller so that it's easier to deal with them, and also just even if you think about the value of gold, it's very weird how like worthless gold is in a lot of RPG systems. It just kind of felt good from various perspectives to do a silver-based economy for like basic peasants of the world, and it goes into use gold all the time only if you're like a rich adventurer or something like that.
So by the way, don't forget, do like and subscribe if you want to keep up on the latest and greatest. This is our 3rd stream today. So Mr. Smith's government class gave $20, and he goes, as a forever DM with only 5e experience, about 5 years, What is the design theme I need to keep in mind when interpreting mechanics? Also, one of my players will want to play a blade singer. Do the mechanics allow for this?
Okay, so when you're interpreting mechanics, I would say you can just read it through, and there's even a section in the core rulebook that talks about like what to do if you need to improvise something and if you aren't sure, and it gives pretty solid guidance. The game mastery guide is also great for giving you guidance on building your own content and sort of reinterpreting mechanics in a different way. I highly recommend the game mastery guide. For that reason, it has variants, it has subsystems, it's very good. When it comes to a blade singer, if you mean specifically like a wizard who is also going to be good at performing and singing and could be attacking people potentially with their weapon, there's numerous options that you have there. You could be, for example, a magus, which is a class that exists that is very good at fighting and has a small number of spells that they can strike into their spell. There's different types of magus that could fit well with that concept. Or you could play a wizard who multi-classes into a martial class if you want to be more spellcaster with a little bit of attack, as opposed to being a blend that is as good at attacking as other people and doesn't have a huge number of spell slots. So you've got a lot of options there.
So Tiger Eyes says he owns all of Pathfinder First Edition, Second Edition hardcovers, and still owns the beginner's box.
Beginner box. Yes,
we'll get to it in a second. Someone actually asked if goblins are a good starting race. Well, in this case, they're called ancestries for a new player in Pathfinder that doesn't know any of the lore.
Well, I would say that they can be. All that you need to do if you want to play one is to look at the ancestry write-up in the core rulebook or on the archives of Nethys, and then take that in mind. They're perfectly reasonable as long as you're reading the ancestry write-up that explains them, and maybe not like an outdated bestiary entry that talks about how some of the chaotic evil goblins work, because not all of the goblins are the same. So it should work out for you.
So here, by the way, and I switched it so you can see, here is the archives of Nethys. Pretty much all the rules, just none of the lore, for every single book Pathfinder has put out is free. And it's all 100%. Online. It's all online. That's open gaming, baby. So if you want to just take a look, you can go to Archives of Nethys. You can also go to PF2 Easy. That's my other favorite one. And you can look up Goblin. And here we go. Here's the ancestry.
And you can get all the information there.
There's everything you need. So if you're curious, you can read up all about it. And you can do that right now. And, you know, it's just different how they organize, but you can see everything that a goblin gets in both. You see they do 100%. It. They just do it a little differently. And let me get back to some questions.
Let's see. Claudia McFly said, I'm hoping for tips for converting from 5e as a GM. Absolutely. Ask any questions that you have, and we will try to get to at least all of the super chatted questions, in addition to doing the unboxing of the beginner box here.
VTT, any good for Pathfinder play? Yeah, I've done it all. The most I've used, you name it. Fantasy Grounds is very popular. Roll20 it's built a little bit more. I actually do development on all these, so I know it's built a little bit more for 5e, but I actually play most of my games on Roll20. Just because it's very powerful and very straightforward, and I know the scripting 5e? Language. No, for Pathfinder. For Pathfinder, I use Roll20 myself, and I
usually play Theater of the Mind, right. But when I'm running, but when I'm playing, my group that I'm playing in that uses a VTT uses Foundry.
Foundry is probably
Foundry's got everything.
Yeah, Foundry is by far, if you're new, Foundry and Pathfinder are like chocolate and peanut butter. They grew up together. It's a very new code base. They can run anything on Foundry, but oof, there's a lot there, man, and it's gorgeous.
There's so much. There's awesome tokens that have like special effects on them that you can get a token pack, and they have some of the adventures preloaded in premium modules with like all sorts of bells and whistles that they put in there.
Yep.
That is like, I don't know. I don't use VTTs when I'm running, but if I did, I would not want to have to load that stuff myself. I would want some of those Foundry premium modules.
And on top of that,
personally,
it's not a subscription. You pay.
Yeah, it's not a subscription. It's a
pay
one-time
$50 and you own it forever.
Foundry.
That's it.
Yep.
So
I love Foundry's business model.
Yeah, that's like the best part, because most other VTTs are subscription based. Let's see.
Sebastian3457 says, as a DM who is considering moving my group to PF2E, what would you consider the necessary books needed? Would it be the core? Sebastian said the PHDMG and Monster Manual, but for PF2. So I highly recommend getting the beginner box to start, just because it's a great starting point and it's got a lot of things in it. But if you were like, no, I don't want the beginner box, I just want the books. I know some of them are dense reference books. Paizo has you covered. The core rulebook for Paizo has pretty much all of the player's handbooky stuff, and then all of the Dungeon Master's Guide stuff that you need to know to run the game is all in the core rulebook. It's one enormous book. There is a Game Master's Guide that has it's got advanced Game Master techniques. This is the kind of thing for game masters who want to homebrew and build their own content, use variants and subsystems, and make their game like deluxe and really good. It's one thing that I know has some people have the wrong expectations for it and think, well, maybe I don't need the Game Master Guide because of the fact that I've already learned how to play and be a GM already. Is it just going to be another one of those books that tells me, well, the 4 types of players are the storytelling players and the method acting players, and you know what I'm talking about. That's in that kind of content takes up a high percentage of a lot of Dungeon Masters Guides and Game Masters Guides. And I'm not even saying it's bad content. It's good content. It's great content. If this is the first time you've ever run a game, it's almost necessary. But Pathfinder has that kind of content in the core rulebook. And then the Game Mastery Guide has stuff that will bring your game mastering to the next level. So you don't need it, but I recommend it. Then there's 3 bestiaries. Bestiary, just the one called Bestiary, is going to be enough for you. But if you really want some cool additional monsters, there's a Bestiary 2, Bestiary 3, and Steven showed you that we made a Battle Zoo Bestiary ourselves at Battle Zoo.
I got everything. It's all behind me.
We've got it all. So Paizo considers the core of the game to be the book, the Bestiaries, the Game Master's Guide, core rulebook, and then one more book, the Advanced Player's Guide, which includes a whole bunch of archetypes and player options that can really open up your game space. And if you don't have it, then players will have fewer options. It's totally playable without it, though. That's considered those are considered the 4 table legs, in like a metaphor of like which are the legs of the table. Everything after that are custom sort of like mod or skin books that not that kind of skin book. You're thinking about it the wrong way, but they can sort of put a skin on the game to Secrets of Magic if you want high magic, heavy magic, lots of spells and things like that. Guns and Gears if you want high tech, sort of put that kind of thing in your fantasy. Dark Archive has that sort of weird supernatural SCP Foundation style. What's going on here? We don't understand it. What even is this situation? And so there are other books like that keep coming out that have that kind of content. But the 4 table legs are core rulebook, the Game Master Guide, the Bestiary 1, 2, and 3 if you want them all, and the Advanced Player's Guide. You will only need the core rulebook, I guess. Although you're gonna have some issues if you don't have at least the Bestiary or the Game Master Guide with the core rulebook, because the Bestiary has monsters and the Game Master Guide has rules for making your own monsters. So it'd be rather challenging if you didn't have either of those. But you could probably make do with core rulebook and one of those. Again, all of it's free on Archives of Nethys. So you can check it out on Archives of Nethys. The rules are lore and some of the additional information is sometimes not on Archives of Nethys, but the rules are all on there.
So someone asked, how do the rules compare between Starfinder and Pathfinder? I don't want to spend too much time on that, but they're different.
They are. Starfinder is sort of, it has a few things that wound up in Pathfinder second edition, a few things that were along the way, and a few things that are still like Pathfinder first. So if you were following the games, the game world when like, you know, D&D switched from like third edition to fourth edition, and right in the middle there was a Starfinder Saga edition, and it was like, oh, this has some things that seem to be like both in a certain way and some of its own unique awesome things. It's kind of like my analogy would be that it's like that in a certain way.
So Nin says, can I ask things related to balancing homebrew? We will go over that if you want, but to be honest, the beautiful thing about Pathfinder second edition is that the rules are so strong and so balanced that as long as you follow the, I'd say, formulas and architecture of Pathfinder rules, you will pretty much automatically be balanced for homebrew. And
I'll go even further than that, Stephen. We put so much work into the framework of Pathfinder second edition that I'm not talking about for like publishing something that everybody's going to use, but that for your particular home game, it is very likely that if you just go into it with a philosophy of not trying to break something on purpose, that whatever you give to them is probably not going to break it, unless it's something that you look at yourself and are like, you know, this gives people 5 actions per turn or 4 actions per turn when the game is entirely balanced around 3 actions. If you do something that's like very out there that you could almost even tell is not something that is normally happens in the system, that's one thing. If you like intentionally make a weapon that does 10 times as much damage as other weapons, that's one thing. But if you just make a good faith effort to create something, it might be unbalanced if the entire community had it and they all decided to use it. But for your one player who picked that up during the game, it's probably going to work like almost no matter what you do with that good faith effort.
We got a lot of questions. So a lot of people have been mentioning Paizo is giving a discount on everything, 25% on certain items using Open Gaming, and if you use Holiday 23, you'll get a 15% discount, and some of these stack.
And the secret on the Open Gaming discount is if you use it and actually buying, I think it's the core rulebook or the beginner box, maybe either, you can get Lost Omens World Guide for free, the PDF. People figured that out because Paizo tweeted being like, we have a secret edition on this, but we won't tell you what it is. And that's what it was. They figured it out. So you can get a free book when you're using
Any
that.
tips on getting 2E physical copies in the UK without paying $65 in shipping? I'm not sure. I don't know how much Amazon does, but quite frankly, go to your local game store if you have one and ask them to order it for you. And it might take a week or two, but then you don't pay anything in shipping. That's what I would recommend. Someone else, Ken Young, mentioned the discounts. Just going through real quick because I want to get to unboxing because we got a lot of things here.
Let's see if
we have some things here like asking about liberating step. If you have very specific rules, I would recommend you go to the Roll for Combat Discord, which is just discord.rollforcombat.com. We have a huge area. There's a lot of good Discords. We have over 2,000 very active Pathfinder players there, and they'll be happy to answer very specific questions like that.
That's right. So it looks like Nichelle Nyman wonders if it's easy to transfer homebrew to Pathfinder second edition. I would say yes, if you know how things work in Pathfinder second edition, then it's going back and forth between them is not too bad. We convert all of our games.
I actually want to answer this question because even I was curious. Is there a coup de grace for assassination? Coup de grace. I haven't said it in so long.
You were right about grace.
Well, you know what? I used to say it all the time in first edition and 3.5, but I'd never say it anymore.
There is no coup de grace,
right?
Because those rules are just like either very anti-player or weirdly like social contracted out of being used, or like weirdly social contracted so the GM just never uses them.
All right, and we got I think only one left here. Ragan
there's
Wolfbane.
like legitimately it's sometimes harder than you think to take someone out when they're like momentarily incapacitated.
Yep.
And like
It's too strong. It's the win now button.
Even
button.
Even in real life,
yeah,
I legitimately know a person, okay, who like when I was at college was
an assassin?
Was stabbed several times
What?
by yes, while he was asleep, and he survived.
What?
Yes.
Ugh, that's terrible.
Yes. Came into his room, stabbed him several times, and he survived. The
Oh
point
my
is
God.
that
Thanks for bringing down the
as easy
house.
as it seems. So it's both something that simulation wise you can at least justify, and that like rules wise it's just not great for the game that the player characters can just be killed the moment a ghoul stuns them. It leads you to a yucky social contract situation where the players either have to just not do that, or the GM has to either just not do that, or it's not very fun.
Yeah, I felt when I was playing first edition and 3.5, there was a lot of social contracts of like, you don't do this, I won't do that. You know, we'd have to do that a lot. And because I felt there was a lot of things like that wasn't fun, like coup de grace, not fun. Paralyzation, not fun. There's just a lot, there's just a lot of aspects that take you out of the game and not fun. And for second edition, there's almost nothing. I don't even know if there is anything. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I don't allow in my games anymore. Like, because it's pretty balanced and it's almost impossible. Even when you're dying, you have something to do. Even when you're stunned, there's something for you to do. You always have something to do. Might not be a lot, but it's something. And here's
another thing for paralysis that I think helps. It's one of the earliest things that I specifically pushed for in the system, because the 3 actions in Pathfinder are amazing. I cannot take credit. Stephen Redney McFarland is one of the other 4 main creators, did a ton on that. Jason Bowman helped him out somewhat. Obviously, we all worked on it eventually, but in the early stages, that wasn't me. But one thing that I pushed for from very early was something called the 4 degrees of success. Now, in Dungeons and Dragons, if you roll that 20-sided die and you hit the DC, you succeeded. If you fail, you failed. There's also in Dungeons & Dragons on 20 is a critical hit for attack rolls, right? In Pathfinder 2nd edition, there are 4 degrees of success on everything. Now, there might not be 4 different things that happen, but there's always a critical success, a failure, and a critical failure. On attack rolls, a failure and a critical failure are essentially the same. They both mean that you missed, but you can get those 4. A natural 20 always gives you a result 1 better than you would normally get. A natural 1 is 1 worse than you would normally get. And you get a critical success if you roll 10 higher than the target, and a critical failure if you roll 10 lower. So what that means is it's an answer to what do you do about paralysis? Because people are not going to be happy if you can never be paralyzed. But Stephen, you're so right. Nobody likes being paralyzed for 5 rounds. I remember I was at my game store playing a game and I got power word stunned by a Glabrezu. I was like a 11th level monk, and my saves were very, very high. This was an earlier edition of the game, not Pathfinder 2nd edition. It was Pathfinder 1st. I got power word stunned, and I went and I left the game store. I got lunch. I came back, and I was almost back to the point where I was no longer stunned, because that's just what happened back then. But with 4 degrees of success, you can put that whole, you're totally paralyzed, there's nothing you can do. You can put that in the critical failure, and it won't happen very often unless the PCs are fighting against some really easy mooks. Or maybe it might happen if like the big boss does it to your PC. And so we were able to look into trying to find a way to do exactly what you were saying there, Stephen. So let's go. I see a question from Captain Relic, the Brass Dragon, saying Pathfinder looks cool, but they're worried about alignment. I highly recommend the variant rules in the Game Mastery Guide for removing alignment from your game, because I too sometimes want to run and not have as much impact in alignment. So you can absolutely remove alignment. You can absolutely loosen the restrictions and play a chaotic redeemer if you want.
There was a question before that, and just
I missed
Dragon
it.
Wolfbane says, I've had friends who've been diehard 5e folks who refuse to play Pathfinder 2nd Edition for 3 years now, and they are begging me to help convert their games. I promise I won't rub it in, but I did give myself a small golf clap.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I feel like people had their opinion back then, and they didn't want to convert back then, and I think they were right for themselves back then. And then people who want to convert now, they're choosing what's right for themselves in this moment. So I think there's nothing wrong with not wanting to convert your game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always happy when people are willing to look at something new as well.
People say we talk over each other. We always talk over each other. It's fine. We're GMs. We talk all the time.
Steven and I are do that a lot. Watch out when we get Derek on the show, because
when Derek's on the show, I literally just go get a sandwich or something because he just stops.
Oh no, we power word stunned you.
Pretty much. Tiger Eye, Steven, I'm guessing we're close to the same age. I cut my teeth with D&D Basic Box, Red Dragon, Blackmore, and Demigods and Heroes pamphlets, and all the first edition AD&D. Yeah, all right. I bought the red box at Toys R Us back when I was a kid. I actually had other versions, but that was like the first, I'd say, official version, because I was also playing with all my friends. These are still my books from when I'm going to go big mode. I'm going big. Here we go. We're going in. There we go. You're off the screen, Mark. Look at that.
I'm gone.
You're gone.
I'm gone.
Look at that monster manual. Look at that. It's beat up. It's old, and still has my, look at that. It has my old address and phone number in there when I was a kid and I wrote it. I still got my Dungeon Master's Guide. Look at this. It's actually superb. Look at this. It's a fantastic. My Monster Man is not in greatest condition. I got my advanced, I got my Player's Handbook. It's the advanced version, and I also wrote my address. Also, upstairs in the attic, I have almost every single version of Dragon Magazine and almost issue, and I have a lot of Dungeon. I don't have all of them. I didn't get into Dungeon until later, but yeah, we're probably about the same age. I started playing in the 70s and then heavily in the 80s, because in the 70s I was really too young. I would mostly play with my friends, but how about this? I do remember in 1981, 82, around there, where they came out with the Barbarian class in Dragon magazine to coincide with the Conan the Barbarian movie. And oh my God, I remember the Barbarian was so freaking awesome and powerful, and I loved it. And that's actually one of the big ones that got me hooked, because I loved Conan. So
Squirrel Killer asked, if something asks you to make a save, but there's no DC listed, it says if it doesn't list a DC or type of save, what should I default to? So Squirrel Killer, it should always list the type. It would be very strange for it not to list the type of save in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. If it doesn't list a DC, if it's a spell, then it uses the spell DC of that character. If it's some kind of special ability or feat or something that a class gains, it'll use the spell DC for a spellcaster class, or the class DC, which is kind of like a not spell, a DC for like special martial techniques or whatever for other characters. That is the default that it uses. And if it's not from a class, then it will usually tell you what it uses for the DC, and it often says the higher of your class DC or spell DC, for example. So that's what it uses there. Mario X asks how similar is 5e to Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And Mario said they found Pathfinder first to be too convoluted, needing a binder to track your character's abilities. So Mario, I would say in terms of how, like, number of buffs that all stack up out to like a million buffs, that is a Pathfinder 1e thing. 5e and Pathfinder 2e both have far fewer buffs than 1e does. In fact, Pathfinder 5e more likely will give you advantage and not give you a buff, but it does have a fair number of buffs if you look hard enough, and they all stack in 5e more or less. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you basically are looking to maybe have one buff from a status, like that's making you intrinsically feeling better with a bard song or something like that, and maybe one buff from a circumstance where you're just in a good situation that's good for you. That's where it ends. There can also be debuffs with in the same vein. So I would say that we drastically, we being the Paizo and the 4 leads on Pathfinder 2nd edition, drastically limited the convolution and the number of buffs that you're going to have to worry about there.
There's actually so many interesting questions.
Yeah, you guys have such good questions.
Actually, here's a good one.
Said, was there a reference class used to balance against other classes during the design? Trying to balance a new class, but I don't know how to balance it against. So Nin, every class is different and they have their own sort of feel. So when you want to balance, I would balance against whatever class feels most similar to your class, right? So if you have a divine spellcaster that might have like some weird font of additional spells that are very limited and cast in divine, maybe that's obviously most similar to a cleric, because I kind of just described the cleric. But if you have a martial character that is all about like going into a state of if you had a character that goes into like a Zen trance that adds a whole bunch of damage, that actually might be more like a barbarian, even though the flavor of going into a Zen trance is maybe like the opposite of going into a range. But in terms of mechanics, that might be similar and you could balance it there.
I'm looking. A lot of people are actually answering questions from the chat, which is helpful. That's
awesome. I love that you guys in chat are answering.
Well, because I'm like about to answer them. Like, oh, someone answered. Actually, someone had an interesting question, which isn't a bad question. Is do you use the same dice? And everyone said yes, you use the exact same dice.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you a cool thing about the beginner box that I just really love once we unbox it.
Okay, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go through these. Let me go through. How about this? You go through. Yeah, well, I know what you're about to say. I'm going to go through this real quick. I'm going to go through these. You get ready, and then we're going to go. And then we'll go through super chats.
We're going to zoom through
I'm going to zoom through these. Let me do it.
It seems like there's
only
like
about 3 or 4.
More, right?
Let me go.
It's
let me
just
go.
The one from Mark Clifford.
No, I'm up to Mario X. How similar are... Oh, he did that one. So we're up to...
I think it's Mark Clifford. I'm brand new
Is there
to
a reference?
TTRPGs.
Oh, no, we're up to that one. Tiger Eyes gave us a smiley face. I'm brand new to TTRPGs. I'm wondering if there's any advice to give on meeting new players or finding new games. Should I start with Pathfinder 2nd or somewhere else? So if you're looking for players and games, you can go to our Discord channel where we play over Discord, and it sounds weird, but it's actually quite a lot of fun, and it's fast, but not too fast and not too slow. And there's a lot of games always going on, and then sometimes people will break out and find games there. So I would strongly recommend. We were actually the very first lodge ever to play games. We're the first official Paizo place to play on Discord. And back then I was like a new idea. There used to be a thing called play by post, where you would play like over, message boards, which they still do. If you go to the Paizo forums, they still do it, but it's almost all gone to play by Discord. So I would recommend you go to our site, and we got
another good one is the Pathfinder Society Organized Play Discord.
Correct.
Because
there's
Pathfinder Society Organized Play is sort of an organized group of players where you can keep your character and it's stored online, and your character can transfer between different groups, and you kind of remember your accomplishments and your level
You're going to be shocked. This is equivalent of like going overseas for the first time. You're like, oh, and you like go and you see how much is there. You're like, this has been here all this time? Like, this has always just been here? Like, you're going to be like, oh my God, there's 100 books out for this game. Okay, I can just keep going. There's endless books. There's modules. There's thousands of people playing it. There's this vibrant online community. They're very friendly. There's a Discord channel with 60,000 people. It's like, we've always been here, and we're ready to bring you in. In fact, we're more than happy to help and teach you and have you play with us.
In fact, I think the most popular negative stereotype of the Pathfinder 2 community is, if anything, that it is too welcoming.
It's too welcoming. We're almost cult-like.
ready to run you. They'll always be ready to run you a game when you give the slightest
You're
inkling
like,
that
exactly.
you are interested.
We're like eager. We're dogs eager to please. We're
Which
like,
I think that if that's the worst negative stereotype, that's not too bad. I know that that obviously every community has people in it that like communities are big umbrellas, but of the overall community, I would say that's
you'll
true.
be stunned how massive and well structured and organized it is. That's the thing, is that it's not like, oh, I need to find a game. You'll probably find a game by this weekend if you try. Like it's
Overlord Faram sent $100. Said thanks for everything you both are doing. Started playing D&D in '77. Very loyal player. Canceled my 6-year D&D Beyond Master tier just now. Loving PF2.
Wow. Yep. I started in '77 as well.
Oh, you guys are year buddies.
We're year buddies.
Drenix says, I had the PF SRD app for Apple. I don't like Hero Labs online builder. Can you recommend other online character builders? Well,
yes,
I recommend
we can.
Path Builder.
Path Builder
because
chewy.
There's a free version, and even the paid version is like very small one-time fee, and it can build anything. It even has our dragon book in there, so that you will get dragons right away.
Mm-hmm.
And they this is Path Builder is like a passion project of one person who put out a great product that almost everyone is using right now, and just listens to the community, because people saw our dragons getting on there and like, look, I want to add more content on there too. And so he put out something so that you can make custom.
Yep. I'm going to show it real quick. Here, let me show you real quick. So this is free, or you can buy it, I think, for $5. He has every single thing you could ever want in here. Here's the dragon.
It's so good.
This is from our book, Battlezoo Ancestry Dragons, which only 2 people wrote and contributed to this: Mark Seifter and Ginny D. That's it. Ginny
I wrote
D.
the text, and Ginny designed quite possibly the coolest dragon in the entire book. We did a stream with her, and she came up with the entire idea behind it, pitched me just full of abilities to put in, and then I did the game design for it.
And then what happened is, if you want, these are the rare ancestries. Here's these are common and uncommon. These green ones are custom, and I'm going to show you how you do it, is that you can add custom packs, and we have free. If you go to battlezoo.com right now, and if you want, you can download all of our custom ancestries from the Indigo Isles completely for free, and then add them here. So for example, here's the ancestries. We have Chichori, we have Gamayan, Hardican, Orpork. I have Slime in here, by the way. Hey, Slimy. So we got Slime in there. So you can just add everything and then just start using it. It's incredibly powerful. You can export if you want to make your own. If you want to homebrew, you can make your own. It's very simple, and then export it out and give it to your friends. See, this is how you just do an export of a JSON file. So this is really powerful. And you don't have to subscribe or do anything else. There's a lot of tools out there. This is not the only one. There's probably I guarantee there's probably like another 20 tools besides this one. Right. Easily.
So Nathan Connor says, I've heard Pathfinder's combat is considerably crunchier. Want to know if that's the case, and if so, what tips to speed it up? My group already runs long combats. So it is and it isn't. There is a 3-action system which gives you sort of more versatility in how you perform your actions on each turn, but turns can actually wind up going quickly, and a lot of cases the monsters don't have a large bag of hit points, which could sometimes extend the number of rounds that your fights could take in 5e, for example, sometimes. So I have seen just this morning there was someone who posted on on Reddit and was like, was this just a coincidence? Was I just lucky? Because I've been running 5e for a number of years, and I just ran my first Pathfinder 2nd edition combat because I heard it was more complicated, and it went so fast. And we got 4 done in the first session of the combats, and each one, the opponents, like, they felt different because of their special abilities, so it made them feel distinctive. And did I just luck out with the dice rolls? Was it just like random chance? I just threw it together with the builder guide, and it's like, it was not. everyone in the Reddit said to them it was not, and I feel good because the designers worked really hard. I actually totally feel okay with the fact that he was thinking it might be random chance and not the work of the design team to try to put together something to make sure it would work like that, because we did our job. If it's so seamless for him that he thought maybe it just all came together like Providence.
Yeah, by the way, do like and subscribe. And some people are asking about our links. They're all in the show notes. And if you ever want to go somewhere, it's simple. It would be discord.rollforcombat.com, youtube.rollforcombat.com. Just that's it. You just have to put the name of the product and .rollforcombat.com.
So I think I found the last question, and then
no, there's actually
it.
You missed a few. Tiger Ice and Steve
some?
Awesome. I've been supporting third-party content creators. Remember, Judges Guild, City State of World Emperor is my most prized possession. Yes, I do remember Judges Guild and all those. I had all those modules and a lot, and unfortunately my parents threw them away. Oops. No. I know. There's actually so many questions.
Well, I see from Pin Sutar, what recommendations do you have for creating your own ancestries or heritages? I'm having trouble finding guidelines. P.S. Fantastic job yesterday covering everything. Loved it. Sub real quick. So that's a very good question, and I will. I don't want to necessarily kick the ball down the road, but I will say this: it is such a good question that Steven and I, before any of this happened, before we knew that last Wednesday, 9 days ago, we were going to have a leak that suddenly came out on our stream, we had planned that today was going to maybe be an AMA on Reddit for Pathfinder 2e, where people ask questions to me about ancestry, such as this question, because we also thought that that's something that people would want to know. Well, the Reddit mods sent me a thing the other day where they're like, with Orc, maybe this is not the best time for you to do a different AMA that is not about that. Can we move it to next week? So we will have something soon, and it might move again because the situation is changing. So don't assume any dates in your calendar until you see it on the Pathfinder 2e subreddit, but there will eventually be an AMA where I will answer all questions about ancestry.
Someone also mentioned Wanderer's Guide is also very good. We're actually on Wanderer's Guide as well.
We totally are.
Yep. You know what? We ran out of questions, so let's go to the unboxing.
We did it. Let's unbox.
Woo,
I'm so
there
excited.
We go. And I'm going to turn off the pop-up alert. So you are full screen, Mark.
Okay.
So I'm dancing.
So
no one can see me.
The beginner box. Now I'm going to have to open the plastic shrink wrap. That's the hardest part of any unboxing for me because I'm just not very good at it.
You're all thumbs?
What?
You're all thumbs?
I mean, I'm actually using my thumb to stretch it past the point, and then I'm going to.
Don't you have sharp implements next to you?
I have scissors.
I was like, don't you have exactly? I have I'm looking next to me. I have a mountain of sharp implements next to me.
Take this beginner box shrink wrap. Okay, here it comes. Opening it up.
Wow, it's the unboxing.
This is a very special beginner box to me because this is my staff author copy of the beginner box that I got. And what do I mean by that? Well, you can sort of see on the bottom there's a reflection and it's probably backwards.
No, it's not. You're correct.
Oh no, I'm not backwards.
You're not backwards.
I'm not backwards.
I fixed that.
I'm so happy that I'm not backwards. It says Logan Bonner, Jason Bowman, Liz Liddell, and Mark Seifter. They're on the bottom.
Look, your name is there.
You can see that too.
You see, we didn't lie.
I'm gonna open this up. Here we go. I'm smelling the kind of component smell of having
printer ink.
No, it's not just printering. It's just the new book smell.
The cardboard
of what's inside of the box. It's on here very sturdily, and I've got it up and open. Here we go. So the first thing that I am seeing now that I have opened this box
there we go.
is a set of color-coded dice. Now, this is important. They each are a different color of the rainbow, and that is because in the books, the icons of what die you need to roll are colored the same way. So this D20 is red. In the book, you'll see a red D20 when you need to roll a D20. That'll help. That can help you learn the dice. This is why I think this is good. For those of you who are watching, some of you said, hey, tabletop role-playing game. This is my first one, and some people are coming from 5e, so it's got that. Now we've got these.
Now don't eat them. They look like Skittles, but don't eat them.
It's like, what the heck are these like kind of black discs that Mark has just pulled out of this box? They are actually pawn bases. So I'm going to open them up so I can show you why it is a pawn base and why they have several different sizes. There's even one that's a different color.
And by the way, I just want to mention, like, if you want to use this for little kids, it's excellent because of like something as simple as having different colored dice for different type of dice. Because, you know, to us, you know, a D8 and a D12 makes sense, but to a lot of people, it doesn't make. They have no idea what you're talking about. So if you're like,
tell your kid, "Hey, I want you to roll
the red
orange
one.
die.
Yeah.
Roll the orange die, and that's the D8."
Yep.
So these are pawn bases. One for a size large creature, one for a medium or small. You can see when I'm putting it out there, it's plastic, and it's got a slot that you can put a little cardboard pawn in, and it'll stand up. We'll see the pawns. They're coming. They're coming soon. I'm going to keep the large and medium pawn base for me. Now I'm going deeper into the box. What is my next thing that I found? Oh, it says, read this first. Read this first. What is Pathfinder? Pathfinder is a cooperative tabletop role-playing game, also called an RPG, a fantasy adventure. Grab some friends to play the heroes in an adventuring party, go on a quest, explore mysterious environments, battle dangerous monsters, find treasure, and tell a story together. If you're on your own, Pathfinder is designed for group play, but this box includes a solo adventure you can play on your own. Open the Hero's Handbook to page 2 to play Pirate King's Plunder, which will teach you the basics of the game. If you have a group, every group needs a game master to read and run the adventure. Pick one player to be the game master. The rest of the players will play fantasy heroes. If you want to start right away, grab one of the pre-generated character sheets. You could be the devout cleric Kyra, the powerful fighter Valeros, the sneaky rogue Mauricio, or the intelligent wizard Ezrin. Take the character folio for that character and the cardboard pawn that matches them. If you want to make your own character, take a blank character sheet and turn to page 12 in the Hero's Handbook. The book will guide you through filling out your sheet and make your unique hero. When you're done, choose a pawn to match your character. If you want to be the game master, take the Game Master's Guide. The Game Master or GM gets to know all the secrets and play all the monsters in the game. Turn to page 2 in the Game Master's Guide to read up on the first adventure the heroes will face, Menace under Otari. Then it has a component list here, so we're going to see what we're going to get. It's got a Hero's Handbook, a Game Master Guide, the 6 colored dice, 13 plastic pawn bases, 124 character and monster pawns, plus 4 sets of action tokens that are on the pawn sheet. Those action tokens are pretty important. I will come back to that like very soon because there are 4 player reference cards. I see that right under here. I'll pull those out. 6 blank character sheets to make your character, 4 pre-generated character folios, and a double-sided flip mat that is you can like put your marker on and it's erasable.
It's a ridiculous. It's an absolute ridiculous amount of content.
Like, some of you may have just bought this from Paizo, but for those of you who didn't and just heard me say that, what do you think this costs with all of these things in here? I want to make sure I get this right.
It has a double-sided.
Yeah. What do you in the chat? Like, Steven, you can check the chat and see what chat is going to guess.
Yeah, it's
and then I will tell you after
so much. It's ridiculous.
Steven is determined.
Pawns, mini, it's ridiculous. The quality is
like you can see
very
on this,
thick.
Also, these cards, it's glossy, like it's not just like a piece of paper. So this is a player reference card. It's got everything you need to play your character. Now, why does it have these little circles on here? This is something I researched when we were trying to figure out how do you make games approachable to new players who might have trouble, especially if they're new, especially if they're young, and they might have trouble visualizing playing the game. So this is not just a reference card. You can set it in front of you and use it as a play mat. And these little circles that has 3 circles in it, you put action tokens on, and this little arrow that's kind of pointing around that is here, you can put a reaction token on. That's how many you get per turn. And when you use an action to move or like attack someone, you can just pull the token off the card. That means you've used it up. People were asking like how to the turn flow go. That can help your turn flow. I've even seen it help somewhat with players who have analysis paralysis to like visualize their turn. It has on this reference card that every roll is a d20 plus you add a statistic. It tells you critical success, failure, critical failure is on here. What happens if you roll a 20 or a 1? It's got all your basic actions: dropping prone, interacting with something in the environment, leaping, seeking for something, standing up, stepping safely, even if the enemy has an attack of opportunity, which not everyone has in Pathfinder. Most opponents don't. Striding, which is a kind of basic movement. We didn't call it a move because then like there would be moves that weren't move and it gets really confusing. And then strike, which is a basic attack. Those are all the basic actions that are on this card. The flip side has the basic conditions from the beginner's box. Now that doesn't include all the conditions that are in the full game, but we happen to know that none of the spells or monsters that showed up in the beginner box needed any conditions other than the ones on the back here. The concealed, which is like you're blurry or in a fog. Flat-footed, where you're flanked or you didn't know, you can't see the enemy, so you're easier to hit. Frightened, where you're so scared, all your statistics are a little bit worse, but it gets a little better over time. Once you're like, wait, it's not that bad. Grabbed, where someone is holding on to you and in place. Persistent damage, where you're taking damage over time. Prone, where you've fallen over. Restrained, where they not only grabbed you, but you basically can't do anything except try to get out. Slowed, where you don't get as many actions each turn. Unconscious, where you're KO'd, and wounded, where you've come back from being unconscious and now you're one step closer to death. So that is what's on these, and there's enough of them for everyone. There's actually 6, which is more than enough for 4 players and a GM. So let's see what the next thing I find in this box is. It is the character folios. I've got the fighter first here. So this one is not the glossy paper because you might have to write on it, right? It's like it's your character sheet. It's got the story of this guy, Valoros. It's got a picture and it tells you why to pick him on the front in case so you can pick your character. You want to fight on the front lines, use the best weapons and armor, react quickly to enemy actions. Inside, it's a filled out character sheet. It's got all the numbers filled out. You're going to notice pretty quickly that each of the sections on the character sheet has like a letter, like letter A, letter B, letter J as your defenses. And then there's a guide on this side that defines all the sections and what they mean. Special abilities are on here too. The reason for those letters is then in the rules, it'll tell you when you're filling out your character, okay, now we go to part H and fill that out next. There, we've also got the rogue, the wizard, and the cleric in here. So next up in my box, I found the beginner box player's handbook. Now, people often, when they're starting with Pathfinder, are like, oh my gosh, do I need to learn a 600-page book in order to, like, the core rule book in order to do anything? This book here, this Hero's Handbook, is a total of 72 pages long. That not only has all the rules to play the game, it also has enough rules to play. It also has character building rules, which in a lot of the D&D boxes, they don't. They just give you pre-gens. For dwarves, elves, and humans, they can be fighters, clerics, wizards, or rogues. And you can build your character up to, I want to say, level 3. Yes, level 3, and pick out all of your options in there. And that part of the book where you're building your character and picking your ancestry, which is like race from Dungeons & Dragons, your background, and your class, that takes up a huge chunk of the book. So when you're looking at what is in the book, it starts with, like it said in the instruction, that first sheet, a solo adventure. And the solo adventure is like the first, a good like 9 pages. That is just a choose your own adventure that uses the dice and lets you learn the game. It's great if you're by yourself. Then there's a 2-page intro called Getting Started that talks about the dice color. Okay. At that point, we're on page 12. This is very important so that you know like how little you really have to go through other than character building. So from page 12 to page no, not to page 49 is all character building. So the only part that's the skills and like the rules of the game, which includes all of the skills and how to play the game, is page 50 to page 74. So it's 24 pages. And that's it. And that includes all of the skills. If you don't care about the skills and you just want to know what are the basic rules of the game, that's page 60 to 72. That's 12. Actually, that includes the index. So, 60 to 71. That's 11 pages. So it's really not a lot to go through, but it gives you a lot of options. There are then the 6 character sheets. You can see these are on these are also on a thinner paper because you're going to be writing on them. They're blank. Then next up, I'm going to pull out the beginner box game master guide from this box. Here it is. It's got a rules reference on the back, so you don't have to flip to the middle to find your rules reference. It has a lot of the basic things a game master needs to know. This book is 88 pages long, so it is longer, but I want you to keep in mind that it has 82 to 88 is an entire city, just all the information about that city. Pages, a good huge section of this book, pages 56 to 81. So that's over 20 of the pages. A high percentage is monsters. It's got all the stats for a whole bunch of monsters that you might want. And magic items is page 50 through 55. So that's 6 pages of magic items. And then hazards, which include traps and haunts, although there aren't any haunts in here. These are mostly just traps. That takes up 2 pages as well. And then there's a 4-page section describing different environments and what it's like to be in the desert. So if you actually want to look at the rules for talking about role playing and building encounters and how to run the game in general, that's only on pages 28 through 43, so about 15 pages. That's it. And you're like, wait, doesn't the book start before 28? It starts with that adventure, Menace Under Otari, that we mentioned before, right on page 2, goes all the way up to page 27. It's a step-by-step adventure that was designed by Jason Ballman to ease you into the game by intentionally building encounters that would use different elements of the game each step of the way.
He actually built a beginner's adventure as opposed to the slaughterfests he normally builds.
Oh yeah, he normally builds adventures that are the hardest adventures you'll find. He is Jason Bowman is the Dark Souls of adventure design.
Yes.
Just always. Even in Pathfinder First Edition, when I was a player, had not met Jason, who would become my boss for the time that I was at Paizo, and I knew of his reputation from playing in adventures he had written that they were super deadly. So the next thing I have is this 2-sided flip mat. You can use your markers on it and sort of dry erase it, and it's got maps that you can use in the adventure, or make your own adventure that's in a very similar looking area to the one that's in the beginner box. Both sides are usable. And now at the bottom is those there's one more thing that's an advertisement for Pathfinder Society Organized Play, the one we talked about here earlier in the stream, to get connected with players, and the books that you need to continue and you can use to continue on to higher levels. But there's these 140 pawns. It's got actions. It's got viper snakes. It's got skeletal giants in here. It's got every monster that was in that section I talked about with monsters, everything you need to run those monsters. And my personal favorite sheet here, where these are not anybody who's in the adventure. They are at the bottom. You can see the iconic characters, but everything else except for this random ogre warrior that is just here to fit a large creature in are just generic characters. This could be your next character that just have a wide range of different characters that you can play. A dwarven male cleric, or a human male rogue, or just a whole bunch of different things like that you can go through for elves, dwarves, and humans. The variety of weapons and just inspirational art to build your character. That's what we've got. That's the beginner box. That's a lot. Did anybody in chat try to guess without knowing how much it was?
I made a poll.
You made a poll.
Yes.
Okay, I am curious what people said. Okay, so most people apparently either already knew. Most people already knew, but then or guessed correctly. It was $40.
It's only 39%.
More people thought that it was more than that than thought that it was less by a small margin.
You only get 4 options in the poll, but
yeah, but there I'm not even considering this separately. I'm just saying the people who thought it was more were more people. It is only $40 and it has a lot of things in here.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. For $40, you get almost 200 pages of content. You get a solo adventure that can teach you if you just want to learn. It has the quality of the paper too. It's all different paper. Some of it's glossy, some of it's like cardstock, some of it is for the character sheets so you can write on them. You have it feels like it's $100.
Someone was just asking, where do you get the Pathfinder beginner box? Well, where I got it was just directly from Paizo because I was working on it at the time. But
Amazon
you can
has
get it
I saw it
from
on Amazon.
anywhere. You can get it from Paizo.com. In fact, I recommend it. There's a 25% off sale right now for the beginner box that also has like a special part of the sale where you can wind up getting like the Lost Omens World Guide if you use the sale to buy something else, the PDF for free. And that's sort of like a hidden part of the sale, or like it was a hidden surprise that they put in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can get it on Paizo.com. You can find it pretty much anywhere that you find games. So, you'll probably see the Pathfinder.
So I have a surprise for everyone.
Oh, Steven's got a big surprise. This is really exciting.
So I know all of you are going to probably get this, and everyone here wants to probably then play an adventure. Now, it comes with a pretty nice adventure. It's a very good adventure. I think it gets you all the way to the end of level 1 up to level 2. But if you want to try another adventure, we have written the Jewel of the Indigo Isles adventure path. It is not completely done. It will be finished any day now, probably within a week or 2. Hopefully we'll have the whole thing done for Pathfinder, and it doesn't affect you directly, but I'm just letting you know that if you do want to purchase the actual adventure path, that you get more than enough to keep you busy. It comes with 300 pages, and then the last 100 I'm finishing up. This adventure, if I must say so, is one of the greatest adventures I've ever seen. It was written by 3 people who their entire full-time job is making adventures. That's all they do.
2 of them are currently at Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
Ron Lundeen and Patrick Rini. They were at Paizo before that. And one is Linda Zeiss Palmer, who not only does she make adventures, not only does she know adventures, she is in charge of the entire like adventure department / sub department team for Paizo. Period. If you know anyone else who does adventures, she is their boss.
These are the 3 people who have probably written and designed and edited more adventures than anyone on planet Earth that is currently alive.
I'd say James Jacobs could give a run.
James
for
Jacobs
their
is
money
pretty close. Yeah.
Dungeon Magazine.
Yeah,
He's
Dungeon.
Probably done a lot.
Well, I said they're in the top. They're in the top. Tiger Eyes. I didn't forget about your gift. I didn't forget. We're going to do your gift. Don't worry about Tiger Eyes. I'm getting to that one. So we decided, if you want, I put together a package for free. So if you go, and let me do it right now. If you go to battlezoo.com, and if you go to the free area where we have a lot of cool things, you can download the entire first chapter of the Jewel of the Indigo Isles for Pathfinder for free. It's about 75 pages. It has everything you need to run the Jewel of the Indigo Isles. It comes with, and I'm going to add more things. I just kind of ran out of time. It has the entire first chapter. It comes with 4 pre-generated characters that were designed to work within the Jewel of the Indigo Isles. It has a free player's guide, which includes the gazetteer for the pirate city, and that's what you'll give your players. And it also has the Indigo Isles character guide JSON files for Path Builder 2e. So if
I didn't know it had that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's free.
A bunch of ancestors. You can play a parrot person, or a rock person that's made of rocks. or a coral person. They're one of my favorites just because this coral doesn't have genders and they don't have genders. They just are made. They're coral.
They're
and
coral.
They have their own perspective on things. There's a whole bunch of different ancestries in there.
So this
There's
is
pig people.
Yeah,
That they
I
have like
love
7
the
meals
the
a day or
orc.
something like
They're
that.
my favorite. Actually, I love the orc.
I knew they were your favorite. I had to talk about them.
I love them. So the thing is that this is the entire first chapter. I will say, and that will get you from level 1 to level 2. This will get you a lot of gaming. I will suggest don't read this unless if you're gonna play it, don't read it. I'm gonna tell you right now, download it, and if you want to flip through it quick, but this adventure, unlike other adventures, was written as one adventure. And I mean, if you read, it's like a Harry Potter book. Things that happen in the first chapter are going to come back around in the 12th chapter. It is one single adventure. It was unbelievably hard to do, which is now I know it does this.
That's
by
why
the way,
Paizo splits them up.
no, my God, I'm never doing that again. But it is incredible because it is one mega adventure, and on top of
Steven,
that,
only you when
Yes.
when you just defy industry wisdom, and I'm telling you, Steven, you maybe shouldn't do this. It's going to make it harder, and you're like, no, I'm going to do it. Only you can cause that to create a product that's much better for
It's so
everybody
good.
else at the end of it. Most of the time when the person who's in charge does that, you wind up with like, who knows? But with Indigo Isles, it just kept getting better and better, but just taking a huge amount of time to make.
Yeah, that's the only downside. But the art is incredible. Wait until you see the maps are ridiculous. Hundreds and hundreds of illustrations. I have just about every single NPC in the book has a picture. I can't say enough good things about this. I mean,
Nobody puts a picture on every NPC.
No one.
My jaw dropped when I found out that Steven did that because art is so expensive.
Yeah, I found out too.
But Steven found out.
Yeah. So anyhow, people are asking, is this for kids? Yes. And
It's
here's
for
something.
anyone.
It's for anyone.
Like
but
Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibes,
Mhm.
or like how Pixar movies are for kids.
what
Steven
was
is
so?
always
Yeah,
talking about that.
my quick elevator pitch for this adventure is Guardians of the Galaxy meets Pixar meets Indiana Jones. That is as close as I'm going to get without spoiling things. If you play it, you will see why. I
will
also
just say,
yeah.
remember when Steven says Pixar, that there's some creepy stuff in Toy Story with like the broken
Yep.
toys. There's creepy stuff in our adventure too, but we have
That's
notes
later.
every time you're about to run into it
Yes.
for the GM. It's like, hey, if you have kids and you don't want to like go deeply into this part of it,
Mhm.
here's where you should take a look. So you're never going to get like surprised by that kind of content, but just like Pixar, there's some stuff
Yes.
in there that is
Well, something
quite
we
unsettling.
Yeah. That is an old movie trick. I used all my knowledge of script writing and scripts are written using formulas. And if you know how to write 3-act structures, we used all the tricks for 3-act structures, and as well as sort of setting up things for later. I don't want to get into it without spoiling it, but I use a lot of script writing techniques when this Adventure Path was built. So when you play it, it's going to feel like a movie, and that includes tonal shifts, and it goes all over the freaking place, which keeps you on your toes and also keeps it exciting. And we have so many options. One of the things at Battle Zoo and Roll for Combat is we give you tons of options. So we tell you we not just give you content warnings if something's going to get scary. We'll tell you how to change it. Oh, and my favorite thing. You know what my favorite thing is, Mark? What happens if you lose?
Yep. It's got lots of notes for the GM because Steven has GM'd so many other adventures, and he's
Thousands,
the person who's always yelling
literally.
at the screen, or it's like, oh, why doesn't it say this in here? And so now he got to make his own, and it has everything that you need if your group, Steven's group, always like goes off script or does something weird. So it's ready to cover you in all sorts of situations that normally a pre-written adventure would not.
Yep. And this one is now, oh, I see someone who doesn't like story arc adventures. You prefer sandbox. Well, guess what? You're covered too, because we have multiple gazetteers we give you one for free, and it is huge. So if you
there's a lot of adventure hooks in that gazetteer that are just never come up in the main adventure.
Yeah, you can just use it. We have an entire god system for this, and the gods are, I can't even, oh my god, the balance, the gods, that was written by Vanessa Hoskins, designed by me. Do you want to explain a little bit about the god system, just because it's so unique? At least I think so.
Is it in the free thing that
it's not in the free, but if you do like the world, and if you want to explore more of
I'll talk about it very briefly, and then I do want to get to more of the questions
I do.
About conversion, but it is pretty cool. It's interesting. Basically, there are a lot of religions in this setting. Some of them are ancient, have been there for a long time, but the most prominent religion right now was formed when some like interplanar interlopers, these two deities that are known as the Father and Mother, kind of arrived in the world, and they started like creating these balanced sets of children after they first made one child who was a dragon who just put everything out of control. And these children are sometimes completely at odds in their concept, like war and peace. But that doesn't mean that they're enemies. They might they might actually get along well when they're talking to each other. They're just very philosophically opposed to each other, and they keep each other in check. And so that is sort of my elevator pitch for that. But I do want to get back to people's questions.
That's okay. But the thing is, I just wanted to say, if you are itching to play something and you guys want to get into it, this is what we have for you. Will there be a Sigil like Foundry version? We're working on the Foundry version with the same programmers from Sigil. So the answer is yes.
There you have it.
There you have it. We don't fool around here at Roll for Combat. It's like I get the same developers that work at Paizo and WotC. It's like, is it going to be Sigil like? Yeah, I got the coders. Who does our Foundry integration? People who program for Foundry. It's like I get the source. I don't fool around.
It's not a coincidence that I'm one of the 4 leads who co-created Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm working for Steven from Roll for Combat. He gets people who know the content.
I get people who know what they're doing. I'll leave it at that.
Let's get back to some of these.
Let's go back to some of these questions. So anyhow,
but also, let's go to the
free
Tiger Eyes sent in that some money earlier, right before the stream, for like a beginner box giveaway. So
yes.
Can you start thinking about that?
Yeah, I want to figure out how to give that away, because I don't know the best way to give.
I don't know how to do a giveaway,
good free giveaway on a chat with 1,000 live people. Are we putting Indigo Isles Adventure on Roll20? Yes, we're working on putting it on Roll20 right now. It's a little tricky, and here's the other problem. Because all the adventures are connected, I just started them actually programming the first adventure, because unfortunately, as I've been designing and implementing the adventures, this 12th chapter can sometimes affect the first chapter. So I learned a hard lesson of why no one does this.
Yep.
Now I know why. Also, Sean Wolf says, "Will Battles will be taking a look at mythic rules?" And stuck out his thumb or his tongue. I don't know if we are.
We don't have any plans right now to do an entire mythic rule set.
No.
Not at the moment. You never know. You never know what will happen, but I don't think it's very likely.
Yeah, Power of Doi gave us 50 Ron just as a thank you. And is there any others?
Josh Karan asked, how do spells differ in Pathfinder versus D&D? So that's like getting into Pathfinder 2e.
I explained a little on the chat.
You'll see a lot of familiar names of spells, although not always. like there's a fireball, but sometimes when you have a name of a spell that was like a little hard to tell what it meant and wasn't really to the point, the spell has sometimes been renamed. Like hold person is paralyzed, and it also doesn't just work on humanoids or like persons. So some of the spells have new names or are different spells. Some of the spells have exactly the same name that you've seen before. They have different effects. You'll just want to look at them individually. When it comes to spell casting, you may be familiar in 5e with the way that like there's the prepared spell casting, and then there's the just strictly worse spontaneous spell casting that is just not as good as prepared spell casting. In Pathfinder 2nd edition, the prepared spell casting is a little weaker than in 5e, and it is balanced with spontaneous spell casting. Spontaneous in Pathfinder 2nd edition is pretty close to spontaneous, like a sorcerer, pretty close to the way 5e does it, where you have different slots and you're going to cast spells that are from your list of spells that you know. But prepared spell casting, you have to prepare the exact number of each spell that you want to cast. Now, if you feel like you really want the flex prepared, that's just the best of both worlds and it's just strictly better than spontaneous, like in 5e, there is a solution. Secrets of Magic has an archetype for you that's like a flexible spellcaster. It's also in you can find it on Archives of Nethys. Gives you a little bit fewer spells per day, just a tad. In exchange for that, you are able to cast like a little bit more like in 5e, like you're used to. But individual spell by spell basis, you will find that each one is a little different. Some of the spells that just kind of maybe ended the fights are a little less fight ending. Some of the spells that just kind of are like, well, there's no need to have a thief or a rogue because this spell does everything, are more of like buffs that work together with the party to win. Just in general, there's also 4 types of magic: arcane, divine, primal, which is like druids, or occult, which is like bards and psychics and stuff, instead of just having fewer types of magic. So those are some of the differences, but there's also a lot of similarities that you'll see, like the schools of magic. What else was there? There was a question that, is there an open database for Pathfinder 2? Where does this service like Pathfinder 2 Easy even get their data in the first place? What do you think, Steven? Did they scrape it?
No, I know how they actually answered it. They entered by hand. They basically copy and paste. Yeah, they scrape it off of PDFs, but there's no single repository.
Gotcha. There was one question here that said they're a massive D&D lore fan. Read every page of the Forgotten Realms twice. How easy is it to adapt the world to Pathfinder 2e mechanics? So I used to read Forgotten Realms stuff all the time when I was getting into D&D in the 90s, especially. Based on my knowledge from there, which is like not very good post Spell Plague, but is pretty solid before Spell Plague era, I would think that it would work great because Forgotten Realms is a very high fantasy setting, and you can do a lot of high fantasy with Pathfinder 2nd edition. Certainly, there, at least pre-Spell Plague, certain like guns and other technological advancements were not always easy to come by in Faerun, which is why it's good that they're uncommon or rare in Pathfinder. Now, I want to put a flag on that. In D&D, if an item is uncommon or rare, that just tells you how powerful it is and which level characters should get it. In Pathfinder, if an item is uncommon or rare, it just means it's hard to find it, and it might not be a fit for your game. Whereas you give an actual level to an item to tell you what level characters should be to find it and how expensive and powerful it is. So all of those high-tech things are uncommon or rare that you might not want to include in Faerun, and you can just say, hey, these are not allowed. Players know that by default, they have to ask the GM to get uncommon and rare things in their game. Now, if you have something that's a little more common because it's from Faerun, then the Pathfinder setting assumes you could just say, hey, this rare option that actually there's a lot of them in Faerun, so it's common in my game. But this thing that in Pathfinder they assumed was more common, maybe it's rare in your game. It's easy to say that because rarity in Pathfinder gives you a language of rarity that you can speak with your players to just explain exactly how your setting is different in like a few simple words that are not just a ban, but are just saying, hey, look, this is rare here. Or you could even say it's unique. There's only one of them in the setting. What else do we have in terms of questions? Did I get them, or was I backed up a little? Oh, I see a question asked from Laura. What's the best Lost Omens to start at if you are a new player? And there, I saw another one before that too. So if you are a brand new player, it depends on what you're looking for from your Lost Omens. So the Lost Omens character guide is great if you want to get some organizations from the world and get a few new ancestry, such as the fan favorite Leshy ancestry is in there. So that's a good one to pick up if you are just kind of a player and you want to know more about organizations and characters. If you're a GM and you want to know a little bit more about the world, the Lost Omens World Guide is a good overview. I like all of the Lost Omens. I'm obviously biased. You could open them up and to pretty much Impossible Lens, the one that came out most recently, and see design lead Mark Seifter. So I'm biased, but I like them all. And I do think that some of the later ones, though, that are just about a particular area, like Mwangi Expanse, which is about the area that's like kind of Africa themed, or Impossible Lands, which is the most recent and is about areas that have a whole lot of different influences, is really, really cool. I think that those are fantastic. I think that some of the other ones, like Lost Omens Legends, about some of the famous characters in the setting, is great. You almost can't go wrong. Just like read the title, and there's like, is that something you like? You will probably like that Lost Omens. Do you like gods? Because I like pantheons and gods a lot. Gods and magic, Lost Omens is a good one for you. So I would say, I don't think you can go wrong with the entire Lost Omens line. So Fooly Cooley the band said, just bought my copy of Tui. Any advice from translating our 5e characters into PF Tui? I have an Eldritch Knight fighter. I'd like to keep playing as my Eldritch Knight fighter. Okay, so in general, when you're translating over characters, you can, someone just pointed out to me to remind everyone that Lost Omens World Guide is free if you use the 25% off discount on paizo.com. Absolutely true. So in general, you may consider starting a new character, but if you're going to translate your current characters, you want to think about the thematics of the character and what makes them feel the way they are to you, rather than just like necessarily you definitely don't want to get stuck in like this any specific terminology or like one specific thing. I'll bring up an example from the Pathfinder 2 Discord, Reddit Discord earlier today, where someone was asking, what if I want to make a character who teleports around? So there was an answer to that of like, oh, well, you know, this kind of a Magus can teleport around. But there were also other ideas of like, would it be okay if they could use time magic to like rubber band themselves back in time to go back to their previous spot and move around, not because they teleported, but because they manipulated time? Well, you can be a chrono skimmer. Or would it be okay if they can use mirrors to create a mirror duplicate, and then they say, hey, the new one is the real me and the original was the duplicate, and then they sort of have moved to another location, but it's not exactly teleporting. So you'll have a lot of options if you leave yourself flexible on that. And the answer to that question will determine what you do. So for example, your Eldritch Knight fighter, easily you can do that. Most likely you'll do a fighter and you take the wizard archetype, wizard multi-class, and you'll get a bunch of magic that you can put right on your fighter. But if you wanted to have more magic for some reason, you could be a wizard who takes fighter multi-class and is not as good at fighting. That probably won't feel as much like an Eldritch Knight fighter, though, because it's mostly a spellcaster. Or you could play a Magus character, which is a class that is designed to combine magic and fighting. It's good at fighting. It's got a few big spells up its sleeve, and it can like channel its spells into its sword and attack you. And so you're going to get a lot of different options, and they're going to each have strengths and weaknesses that you can choose. Looks like Shap Shane is wondering if anyone knows good Pathfinder 2e optimization channels. Seems like 5e has better optimization than 2e. I would say it from a different perspective. As someone who probably was first famous in the Pathfinder first edition community before I worked at Paizo for writing optimization guides. I wrote the Rogue Eidolon guides to the fighter and the Rogue for Pathfinder first edition. So Pathfinder 2e is a system that is trying to make it, and I believe many people have said succeeds, so that you can optimize. You will be noticeably better, a little better, but you're not going to have a situation like in 5e where or in Pathfinder First Edition where your character is like 3 times better than the one that didn't optimize. Or in First Edition, you could make a character that was 10, 20, 100 times better than an unoptimized character and could just blow everything out of the way. In Pathfinder 2e, it's more that your character might be 20% better when you just optimize the build. So where does the rest of the that depth that I talked about earlier in the stream, where does that go? So that goes into playing. It's when you play, your decisions that you make during your turn, the teamwork from working together with your other players, that makes a huge difference in your battles. Whereas in 5e and Pathfinder First Edition, to a greater extent, I could build a character at home that had kind of already won the adventure because I built it the right way. And when I showed up, I win. That's something that you do less on Pathfinder 2e. You totally can build optimized characters that are stronger, but they're not going to blow things away. And that also means that optimizers like me can feel like less stressed about the need to do that and can just kind of relax and build whatever characters that you want to feel like playing, knowing that it's probably still going to be pretty good. Did you see anything else, Steven?
I've been answering questions.
Awesome.
Someone's very excited about Battlezoo's Gremlins.
Oh yeah, Gremlins. They're going to be so cool. So if you want a sneak preview of what some of the heritages for Gremlins will be, look at the bestiaries for Pathfinder for Gremlins, because they're going to come straight out of your favorite Gremlins from there. And I believe Gremlins were one of the ones that got the...
What are you talking about, Mark? No one knows.
What?
No one knows what you're talking about. Maybe you should explain.
So Battlezoo Ancestry's Year of Monsters is part of our Kickstarter that we did just last year. And it's coming out. Slimes as a playable ancestry, the Pathfinder version of Race, just came out like what? Tuesday?
It feels like a year ago. Tuesday.
It feels like a year ago. So I'm like, it was this week's Tuesday, wasn't it?
Was actually Tuesday.
Every month, we're going to put out a new ancestry. You're going to get a PDF and Foundry if you have the Battlezoo Ancestry's Year of Monsters. Foundry integration automatically, design streams where you join our design team and help us to expand and add more to the monster. And in particular, Gremlins, I believe, are one of the ones that hit a stretch goal, so that they are going to go up to double length, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so that means that we're going to be adding a lot from the initial release into the final version. So your favorite Gremlins are really going to matter if you're part of that. So
yeah,
that is my answer about Gremlins.
We do everything outside of the box and then some. We're like so far outside the box. We're like in the ocean at this point. Like one of our free ancestries is a dungeon that you can play. You can play a turkey. It's not really a turkey, but it's a turkey. We have, monstrous ancestries. You can play an intelligent weapon. You can play a slime. You can play a doppelganger. You can play a mimic. Like, we actually saw something in Ian World, and they were like, how could you play? They were like, I think you could play a mimic. But I don't know how you would do that. And they were trying to figure it out. And we're like, guess what?
You got it.
We got it. We did it.
We've got playing a dungeon as your character. It's free on our site.
Totally free.
It's free. You can just download a PDF and play a dungeon. Mm-hmm. It's not a joke. We did release it on April 1st, but it is totally serious that you are a dungeon. And I just took that prompt and wrote it as if I was seriously going to write a real, race or ancestry in Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. And that's what you got. It's a dungeon character.
Yes. We got a question. Let me let my dog while you're answering.
The question of Kevin L is, hey guys, since we got a 2e Kingmaker, any chances for a Wrath of the Righteous remake? Well, Calvin, I don't know what Paizo's plans are going to be that far into the future, and even what the parts that I do know that are still things that I heard at Paizo would be under NDA. However, I can at least tell you that Wrath of the Righteous use the mythic rules in Pathfinder First Edition, which are a whole big set of rules. That seems to me like it would be pretty challenging to do compared to putting out almost any other adventure path from Pathfinder First Edition. So I would say that, you know, like, I'm not gonna never say never, but it feels like pretty unlikely to me. Oh, do you have Terrapoof plush?
Yeah, someone
from
was
Eldamon?
asking about the Eldamon and is Eldamon our version of Pokemon? And not only is it our version, but we even have plushies. And I'm actually working with I'm actually getting the tags. I said to them, all I wanted to do was make plushies, but you'd be amazed the amount of tags and information you need to add to these things.
The tags are cool. They can have little stories on them.
We're doing that. We're gonna add little stories on the tags.
Linda got her owlbear plushies recently, and I noticed one of the people who actually had the leaks for like the OGL 2.0 was like the owlbear plushie Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm. And we have 6 of our most popular plushies because this is designed for kids, and also wouldn't it be fun because this is life size, so you can have your the chill otter just hanging out with you when you're playing, so you can bring it on the board and go hello and have it go.
Oh look, Linda brought over our owlbear. They have some complicated things in plushies nowadays, right? It's this owlbear. It has like a magnetic fish that it can hold. Yeah, it's got a fish. It's a magnetic fish. It can hold it and it can share it with the snowy owlbear.
Oh, yeah, see those tags? That's what
it's got an adopt your owlbear tag on there.
We're doing those. Those tags are annoying.
About owlbears. It's just a wee cub that will soon grow to be a friend and companion and find partner on your adventure.
You have to fit because you have to put an OGL worth of text on a tag that's like 2 inches. There's so much stuff you have to put on those tags. It's ridiculous. We did get some super chats.
Oh, did we have one that wasn't Wrath of the Righteous?
What? Yeah, we have a couple here. We have what? Hey guys, since we got a 2E Kingmaker, any chance of
Oh, I already did that.
What about
Oh, I
classes
see some
or multi-classes would you suggest for a new player?
So Merlin Dex is asking, what classes or multi-classes would you suggest a new player look into if they want to play a tanky Gish type character? So just for the chat, because I know there's some who are brand new to RPGs, there's some who are just new to Pathfinder and have done a lot of D&D. Gish is a term that is based on the Githyanki, a type of humanoid that like were once enslaved by mind flayers and live in the astral plane in D&D, and Gish are like their fighter mage combination characters in their society. So this question is asking me for a character that has got the fighting and the magic and is tanky. So I will start by saying that if you want a character that is going to dominate in damage dealing, dominate in magic, and dominate in tankiness in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it's going to be pretty hard because like intentionally it's hard to do all of those things. So you're probably going to want to look, like I told the person who was going to convert their Eldritch Knight, into what part about that concept excites you the most. And once you figure out what excites you the most, that's going to help you a lot in determining which path to go. Because the Magus, they can put their spells into their blades, and it's really, really, to use like a Magic the Gathering player term, Timmy. Because you can get these gigantic exploding sword attacks that do a ton of damage. But if you want to cast a lot and really not fight quite as much, you could do something like be a spellcaster, maybe be a sorcerer who takes the champion multi-class for some tankiness to get a heavier armor. But really, you're mostly a sorcerer at that point. There are other options too. You could play a tanky champion and then use a sorcerer multi-class to get some of those magic type options. That would make you really tanky, but your spell usage is going to be limited compared to someone who was more of a full spellcaster in that regard. So Tiger Eye says, talk about archetypes, dedication, multi-classes. I play wizard with cleric and ritualist dedication. Okay, so in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, basically, when you're building your character, have you ever like wanted to multi-class in 5e, maybe in some other editions, and you worry though because you have certain abilities you really want from 2 different classes, but you're like, oh, but I'm losing my progression, I'm losing the coolest parts from my main class. So in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you always get the coolest parts from your main class because you always are advancing your main class and you get the necessary features of your main class. but you get selectable feats for your class every even level, and sometimes more often. And at those points, you could say, wait, I know I'm a fighter, but I'm not going to take the feats from my fighter class. I'd like to take feats from somewhere else. So at that point, you could take those feats and you could use it to get the wizard multi-class. And using those feats to get the wizard multi-class, you can get a bunch of spells and wizard abilities. You could get a barbarian multi-class and get some rage and other abilities. Or you could get something that's not a multi-class at all. That's what Tiger Eyes mentioned. It's called an archetype. So an archetype is something that just sort of makes gives your character some kind of fictional archetype beyond your class. So pirate, for example, maybe you're a pirate. I mentioned Chrono Skimmer earlier in the stream as someone who goes through time. You can take that as an archetype. There are archetypes that are mostly about your skills, like medic. So you can take archetypes to customize your character in ways that are different from anyone else from your class because it's going beyond your class, using your class-based resources to purchase additional abilities for your character. And that's sort of how the answer to Tiger Eye's question works.
So I can't seem to find a very good way to do an online lottery or raffle. So what I'm going to do, because Tiger Eye was super nice and donated $50 so that we can give a free beginner's box out to someone. So what I'm going to do is, if this is okay with you, Tiger Eye, to make it fair, I'm going to do it on the Discord channel, and this way anyone who's on the Discord channel can also enter, and I'll do it. It's a lot easier in Discord because I can just have people enter. And
so
just,
is that discord.rollforcombat.com?
Yes, I just did it, and then I'll make a special channel just for the contest, and then people can just say something like hi, and then every single person will get an equal chance, and then I'll do a random drawing and they win. If that's okay with you, Tiger Eye. It's probably, I just want to be fair, and I want to make sure that everyone gets the chance, and I can't find an easy way to do it through YouTube. I was looking, and it's just,
so
there's no good way.
If you join the Discord, you will get a chance to win a raffle for a new beginner box.
Yeah, I'm going to set it up. It's not right there right now, but I'll make sure, and I'll give people time to enter, and I'll make sure Tiger Eyes, hit me up on Discord, and I'll make sure you get full props that it's coming from you. Because he super chatted us, but I'm gonna buy it and I will send it to anyone using just Amazon, but I'll take care of all the shipping and everything.
That's right. So we've got a couple more questions. Ben Shoman sent a super chat, but then asked the question separately later, which I've located. It says, my friends say Pathfinder is more crunchy. Does that mean that D&D would be better at creating stories? So I'm going to introduce you to something that a kind of an internet sort of, it's not exactly a meme. It's sort of an adage on the internet. It's called the Stormwind fallacy. Is something on the internet where the idea that if you are doing something that's better mechanically, that means it's worse for roleplay, or that vice versa, doing something that's good for roleplay would cause problems from the mechanical side. There are a lot of games that are really good at both, and I feel like D&D is an example of a game in general that's good at boboth, and Pathfinder 2e is also good at both. In some cases, having those extra rules actually can help you create stories because it gives you the tools so that you can just sit back and create your stories and know that you can trust the character or the encounter builder to help you build your encounters when you need to, or even on the fly if you're the kind of GM that adapts to situations like I am and just rolls with the punches and just makes something up to go along with what the players are doing. If you have an encounter builder you can trust, if you can spend your brain juice working on the story without having to worry, oh my gosh, I need to check this encounter. I know the CR says it's deadlier than deadly, but it's probably might be
brain
too easy.
Brain juice, really?
Yeah, why not? And then there was another question that someone asked us, I think super chatted like right before or the beginning, that was about haunt rules. And I said, let's not do haunts first because that's in the weeds, but we have gotten to a point where we're not at the beginning, and they pinged me to remind me, Brain Hekram. So haunts are a type of hazard in Pathfinder Second Edition. Now, what is a hazard? In D&D, there's traps. In Pathfinder Second Edition, hazard is an umbrella term. It includes traps, includes environmental hazards like just rocks falling on you for a rock fall or something like that. That wasn't necessarily a trap somebody built, or like a weird green slime or a yellow mold or something like that is a type of hazard. And haunts are a type of supernatural hazard, typically built out of a remnant of a spirit that has some kind of unfinished business. And they work just like traps in most ways. They can be disabled in certain ways, not by like your thief just putting a lockpick into it and jimmying it up, but they can usually be disabled with religion instead of thievery, or with occultism, or maybe even by diplomacy, talking the ghost down. Haunts also, they do something to you just like a trap does. And a lot of haunts, just like traps, can be reset. They might automatic reset or reset when somebody comes up to them and like pulls a lever. Haunts generally reset after like a day or something, unless you deal with their unfinished business. If you're making your own haunt, it's good to put some clues about the unfinished business of the haunt into the manifestations that the haunt does, so that when it's not just an attack, but like maybe your character starts choking and you can't breathe, and then you start drowning. And then that means that they should look in the fountain because there's a corpse there and they need to like give it a proper burial or something like that. So that's sort of what that is a haunt. And the haunt rules are just the normal hazard trap rules, but more supernatural. And you'll find that in the core rule book. We'll give you more details on that.
People are asking about the contest. I'm going to make a brand new channel just for the contest. So just hold your horses. It's not there yet, and I don't want to do it while we're on the stream because I can mess things up. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, so just
there
hold your horses.
There have been a few people throughout the stream who want to change their pledge for things from 5e to
I've been
Pathfinder.
getting a lot of people asking me, not a lot, but usually no one does. So even more than one is a lot. A fair number, how about that, of people have been asking me to change their pledges for our Kickstarter content from 5e to Pathfinder, and I have been working it out. So if you want to, some of it will be easier than others, and people keep asking me. All right, you know what? I'm going to do it now in the Discord because everyone keeps asking me. All right, there it comes. All right, here we go. I'm going to do it right now because people keep asking me where it is on the Discord. Where is it on Discord? I'm doing it right now. You happy? All right. Look what you made me do. You take over, Mark, because I'm going to do this.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna take over. And it looks like Brain Heckram said that helped a lot. I'm glad that it helped you. I feel like haunts are sort of an unsung little tool that a GM you're gonna have in your toolbox to tell stories about things. You can even add one to an area that's not all like Curse of Strahd, total like horror area. That's just like a normal adventure area, but with one haunt that's based maybe on an adventurer who came there before and got killed. And that might even give clues about the dangers in the next room because that's how that adventurer died. So Chris Moore says, if I were writing a campaign setting for Pathfinder 2e, is there a Pathfinder book that has a recommended formatting for a campaign or world book? So that would probably be the Lost Omens World Guide. It's got a brief overview that's of different areas that are in the world of Golarion, which is Pathfinder's core setting. Not only is it a good choice, it's also free. If you go on paizo.com and use that 25% off discount code and buy any of the things that are 25% off, I've heard, I may be wrong about this, but there's at least certain things that you can get with that code that when you then also add Lost Omens World Guide PDF, you get it free. So it is not only the correct answer, it is the cheaper answer. Let's see. Samuel Lagos is wondering if there's a chance for an adventure specifically for Eldamon. So Samuel, probably not, but the Indigo Isles adventure certainly has references to Eldamon in it.
But also explain Eldamon work in anything.
Eldamon work in any setting. So you don't need
Homebrew,
an adventure for Eldamon. If you're wondering, like, if I put this in, won't our entire adventure get derailed when people are just collecting monsters? We jump through a lot of hoops. I put on multiple design hats and worked through it. the number one goal of our design for Eldamon is to not make it so that Eldamon like take up the table's entire time for the non-Eldamon players and like derail your adventure. You can run any adventure with an Eldamon trainer character, and we're creating rules that will let you seamlessly add them to another adventure, and you don't have to be like encounters where you fight the Eldamon. You don't fight them. You kind of just find them in areas that match their element. Even the player playing the Eldamon trainer can use tables that we'll have in the book. If the GM just says, I don't want to deal with this, you figure it out. And you trust, and the GM trusts the player not to just, oh, I found the rarest Eldamon every time. There will be tables that the player can do themselves if necessary to make sure that this is not something that is going to cause sort of friction at the table for having an Eldamon trainer in there. Let's see.
Okay, I have it's up there. I have a contest giveaway. I already have hundreds of people have already entered it. But yes, just go there and just say hi, hello, hey, whatever, it doesn't matter, and you will automatically be entered into the contest. And at the end of this, rather than have this go on forever, at the end of the stream, I will randomly pick someone. So, and I am watching it now, and I will export it and then just put it in and randomly select a number. I've done enough of these
Steph
contests.
H asked on the stream, how do you catch Eldamon? Is it basically magical slavery? It is not.
No.
You actually don't catch them. You befriend them.
Yes.
You befriend Eldamon. You have to learn what they like. And if you learn what they like, you can get closer to them, which helps them to evolve. Like Chillot, that little ice otter out there, loves ghost stories. They just do. They like ghost stories. And so these Eldamon, you befriend them. And not only that, but it's not, Steph responded and said that's better in theme than Pokemon in certain ways. It's not like you're just capturing them to force them to like kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're also these insubstantial, almost spiritual beings that only phase into our world when an Eldamon trainer like kind of gives up their own phase shift for their Eldamon. What this means in the bottom line is that when they fight as beings of energy, they don't actually get hurt. They can get weakened. Their energy gets weakened. They can't necessarily, they have to rest. So they like to play by doing play battles because they're not really like, they're not getting like giant injuries or hurting each other. That's just what they do for fun, like dogs that are kind of playing around. And so not only do you not enslave them in balls, but you also don't like cause them to kill each other for your amusement. Somebody said that intro, Thorlock says that intro is amazing and accurate. Please let's make sure we use it so we're not getting onto the same hot water as Hasbro.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I went at the end there, but thanks. We're gonna keep using it at least for a while. I don't think it's going away for a while. So
it's double crit fail who made it. It's just very, very cool.
Yes, and someone asked me, how familiar are you with Pathfinder? How familiar are you with Pathfinder Second Edition spells to 5e? Will I have to familiarize myself with 1,000 new spells? Or are they fairly similar spells that I know from D&D? You can answer that. I mean, you know the answer.
I definitely can. As the one who was just over the year right before it was released, like the winter holiday break, I was just at Linda's family's house, just on the couch, like getting those spells in there. So I know a thing or two about these spells. You will be familiar with a lot of them, and some that will also be similar, but just have a different name that's easier to understand. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, Paralyze is probably easier to understand than Hold Person for the name of the spell that paralyzes an opponent. But you will remember Fireball, Lightning Bolt, Magic Missile. There's just a lot of names of these spells that you're going to say, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about here. Summon animals. Like they're not always have the exact same name, but sometimes they even do have a name that's going to be the same name. So you will recognize a lot of these spells, and the ones that you don't recognize generally have a good, quick, short description, and then you can figure out that like Inner Radiance Torrent, which you charge up this giant attack over 2 turns and then blast it out. or Elemental Annihilation Wave, which is very similar. Those names and their descriptions of just charging up a giant attack and then blasting it out are pretty self-explanatory. Those are also in an expansion book. The core book has a lot that are going to remind you awful lot of the ones you're used to. So don't worry about that.
People want to know if there's rarity for Eldamon.
So yes, there are. So those plushies we made of the 10 most common Eldamon. We don't have plushies for all 10, but they're from the 10 most.
6.
They're from the 10 most common Eldamon. There are rarity. There are common Eldamon, uncommon Eldamon, and even some really rare ones too that are harder to find. We don't have anything like Mewtwo or like where it's just like there's literally only one of this Eldamon in the entire world. Nobody else can have it except you, just because by default we want to put in Eldamon that are going to be more usable. That once you use it in your first campaign, if you're running another campaign in the same setting, you can't be like, well, that Eldamon I know belongs to Steven's character Bob, so now nobody can have it. But in your world, if you know you're not going to worry about continuity, you could make the rarest ones be unique if you wanted to. It's going to be very easy to add your own Eldamon because I'm going to do all the back end work for you by creating special powers that the Eldamon can all use from that element. You can think of it like in Pokemon, right? If somebody created Fire Blast and Flamethrower and all of those fire attacks for you, it wouldn't be that hard to make a new fire Pokemon because all of the names of the attacks and what they do would already be handled. And similarly, you would just get to use your creativity, roleplay, and lore to make a new one if you wanted to make a new one if the rules were already covered.
What's the Eldedex? Someone wanted to know.
An Eldedex is an index of Eldamon that has just information of them. They're numbered from 1 through however many we're going to wind up with at the end. I remember it's more than 160. And it's got their name and some just basic information, like telling you that Chillot loves ghost stories. Mm-hmm. And it's just an index to help you go through Eldamon.
Yeah, if you go to the Discord channel, I'll put up a... Go to the Eldedex. I will put up... Bleh. If you go to the Discord channel, go to the Battle Zoo, go to Eldamon. A lot of words there. I will put up... Whoops, this is just covered up. Everyone's like, oh, I can see Eldamon quick. Yeah, for some reason, I can never get Zoom to work the way I want it to. I will put up an Eldedex entry to show you. Here we go. Here's one. So there you go. If wait, still processing. There we go. So if you want to see what an Eldedex entry, I'll put up another one. I put up Squirrel Ash, and I'll put up Terrapoof. There we go. So you can get an idea of what they look like and how we will be organizing them. And there's different elements, and it's...
Yes. Someone asked in the chat if there are elements. There are 13 now. There's more to come eventually.
This is something
it's got a lot of elements.
Yeah, this is something...
Oh no, Michael Borrell asked, will you make a rap song with all
I didn't
the
send this
names?
to you. Wait,
oh no.
You already did.
Unfortunately,
yes.
There was a stretch goal on the Kickstarter that is going to force me to do that.
Yes.
And it was a mistake. I even said, don't do this. I sent out a ping to all of the backers that said, just please, the only thing that you shouldn't do is just donate a little bit more because we're close to this and the world is safe from having to hear my
but there is a baby Eldamon Elderap on our YouTube channel under shorts that you can watch. And did you see someone did an Elderap of 1,000 because now there's 1,000 Pokemon, and someone did an Elderap for all 1,000.
Or did they did a poke rap, I guess.
Poke rap. Yeah, well, you know. Yeah, you know how
I
we
know
are.
What you mean.
Well, the problem is Eldamon and Pokemon, they're very similar, and so similar that I often mix them up. But something should be said is that I've been working on this for years. This is not something that we just thought up.
You've been cooking up the idea at the very least for decades.
Yes,
that's why you had the Battle Zoo. The
Battle Zoo, yeah, and I registered Battle Zoo like in the 90s. I had this idea for a long time, but the ability to get this done, because it's funny, we were talking to multiple people and they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm surprised someone didn't do that before. Good luck. It's incredibly hard. But Mark, between Mark and I, mostly Mark, pretty much all Mark, we can figure this out. I just give the architecture. Mark does the building. That's how it works.
You had the idea. I'm going to make it happen.
Right.
So Horns fan had a really good point, which is that some people may have come on later in the stream. And could we reiterate the free resources for Pathfinder 2 beginners? They really like what you did earlier on.
I'll bring it up.
With those, but they figured that some of the people that are here now might not have seen them. So these are free resources. There's so many good ones for Pathfinder 2nd edition.
There we go. Archive of Nethys is, and they even have a little new to Pathfinder. So, and they show you how to play. They have like getting started. They have the traits, modes of play. The thing is, because Pathfinder is OGL, every single thing that Pathfinder has put out, all 100+ books, is online for free, not including lore and some other elements, but all the rules and what you need to play is up and free. And not just one book, not 2 books, all the books. All of them. And you don't even have to hear it. Here's the list. So, by the way, here, I got this up. I mean, you can see it's the core rulebook, the bestiary, the world guide, character guide, gods and magic, game master guide, adventure player's guide, specific adventures, ancestry guide, secrets of magic, malevolence, guns and gears, grand bazaar, book of the dead, knights of last wall, dark archive.
People would like a link in chat.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm gonna put that in the.
No worries.
In the you could do it too. Or I see Linda's.
Linda confirmed how terrible the Elder Rap little snippet was.
She can help too. I can make Linda a mod. She can help
Linda
out.
What?
I can make Linda a mod. She can help out.
You can make her a mod.
Yeah. So yeah. So these two, PF2 Easy and the Archives of Nethys. These are the 2 places. I'm gonna put it in the show notes too. So it's
Joe the Frogman says, oh, they didn't just give one single background like they're used to for D&D. Every background ever created. Thanks, Paizo, said Joe the Frogman.
Yes, it's insane. And the funny thing is, when I started to play, I never understood, like, how is this on here for free? Like, how are they making money? How do they make money if everything is free?
Well, I'll tell you, Steven.
Well, I know too, but I want to hear yours.
Brian Dancy answered that question for you somewhat.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Back when he talked about market externalities and the fact that the value of your brand is also related to how many people play it out that are out there.
Yes.
So absolutely, that from the number of people who play it, they make a lot less money per person than they would have if they didn't put it out for free. But because the more people are able to play, and it's sort of more of a pay what you can to support the creators. If you can't, that's fine. You can get it for free. That not only is it good for the fan base, but that also means that more people can play. That makes it more valuable of a game because more people are playing it, and more even if only a quarter of people are able to pay for it or a half, more people are going to play it.
Yeah, I'm holding up right now. The other reason is the artwork in their books is incredible. I mean, my goal when I design my Battle Zoo books is to be as good, if not better, than the Paizo books. I have been a designer for 35 years, and I have, as you can see, a gargantuan, collection. The quality of all of their artwork is just, and the paper and this everything is just fantastic. It's also incredibly consistent. If you're going to start seeing reviews of these books, it's not like, oh, this one's not great, this one's okay, this one's pretty good. It's pretty much they're all fantastic. Some are even more fantastic than the others. Like, I can't think of too many books that have ever really gotten a bad
The
review.
goal is to make books that you want.
Yeah.
And
Ever.
I know you'll see some people online who say, well, the reason why is actually they don't make any money on anything except the adventures. That's not necessarily. I mean, you could see how many of these other books there are. Obviously, Paizo would love it, and any company would love it if you buy all of the books that you can. But it is definitely true what Ryan Dancy said about market externalities, that the more people who are playing, just like the more fun the community is for the game, the better I think they're going to do.
Mhm.
And so it's okay to give up. You don't have to make ruthlessly, cutthroatly make the most profit from everyone. You don't have to wring money out of fans like some corporate suits want to do. You could just be a community that is pro fan.
I mean, look at us.
Get more fans. To
We
come
give out a
in,
lot
and
of
if you
free
do that-
stuff. We give out a ton of free stuff because I'd rather you play Pathfinder and also play. I mean, I'll be honest. Of course, I want you to play with our books and our content. But you know, it's open content anyhow. If you go to PF2 Easy, you can look up all the Battle Zoo monsters. You can even look up the monster part system. It doesn't have everything in there, but it has a lot. It doesn't have the art. It doesn't have all the lore. It doesn't have everything, but it has everything if you wanted to, and that's because we use OGL, and I have to. I mean, I can't control it. That's the beauty of OGL is I have to relinquish control, and that is unfortunate in some ways, but also helps get the word out if you want to try to play my game. And also, quite frankly, I'm someone who uses websites and online tools whenever I play. So for me, it's also easier. So. Yep.
Eric S. Riley said, I know this is a beginner video, but you might want to also mention the adventures Troubles in Otari and Abomination Vaults, because they come right out of the beginner box. And that's true. The beginner box ends with your party in the small little town of Otari.
Mm-hmm.
And in that town, you've done that adventure that I showed you that was in the beginner box, right? But Paizo was very smart and made more adventures that take place in Otari. So you could just go right out of there and run Troubles in Otari, which is a standalone module adventure in Otari, or the Abomination Vaults, a giant adventure path with a mega dungeon set right by Otari. One of Paizo's most popular in terms of the fact that they made a hardcover compilation, which they generally do if it's one of their most popular adventures, right? There is a hardcover compilation for Abomination Vaults that also gives you a very good price when you get the hardcover compilation. So I highly recommend looking into the hardcover. In fact, if you come out of this video being like, you know what, Mark, Steven, you did a good job. Thank you for telling me about Pathfinder 2e, but I'm still going to play 5e. There's a 5e Abomination Vaults conversion that is out there even. But I would recommend the Pathfinder version personally. I like it a lot.
That is a dungeon crawl. It's a fantastic dungeon crawl.
If you want a mega dungeon, if you do not want a mega dungeon, do not get that.
Yeah,
get like Kingmaker. Kingmaker is very sandboxy.
Yeah. Oh, you want sandboxy? I'm gonna show you something. I don't know how they made any money on this thing. Okay, this book. I'm going to one person view because this book. Look at the size of this book. My book is going to be 400 and about 10 pages long. Their book is. How big is this thing? Oh my god, 620 something. I mean, this book. This is one adventure. Okay, it has sub adventures. It is sandboxy. It's world building. It is. You can play this adventure for the rest of your life. Like seriously, it's kind of insane. You could literally just buy the beginner's box. You don't even have to if you don't want to, and get this adventure, and you're done. You're done forever. It's ridiculous.
So Hector Vives gave a shout out to the PF Tools website that has tools.
Yes, the PF Tools website. I was going to look that one up. That's another good one
for handouts and such.
Yeah, PF Tools is actually, I think the same guy who does PF2 Easy. That's the same one.
Yeah, I'm not sure one way or the other. Also,
I know.
Steven has a website that could be good for people who want to
Oh,
like
yes.
make your own monsters. RPGsuperstar.com, the
Oh,
website
I should add
for
that.
the contest RPG Superstar that Steven has licensed from Paizo. Paizo used to run it. Now Roll for Combat runs it. That's sort of why Roll for Combat's a licensed partner. And RPGsuperstar.com, you can submit monsters every time we run the contest to be published into a Battle Zoo Bestiary. That's what Battle Zoo Bestiary is, the book where just all new, brand new game designers got their monsters published in there. And here's the reason I'm recommending the site, though, because there's not an active contest, but there's a monster builder on it that you can just put in some information. It gives you like the guide rails for what numbers to put in out from the game mastery guide, but it's automated and it can let you make monsters super fast. I use it now for all of the monsters I'm doing for work, since they're also need to be submitted to Steven anyway, and he has the site. But it outputs them and they kind of look like the same output you would see in like a Paizo book with one of those monsters, which is also really cool because they look like, oh yeah, that kind of looks like it's got the right formatting and things. It you know, there's a few weird types of monsters like troops of 200 zombies or something like that where you have to do some things by hand, but it's a nice tool that can help you if you're going to be building a monster.
I hope it's a nice tool.
You hope it's a nice tool?
Yes, it was a lot of work to get that thing working.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting in just some more tools in the. I can always tell when we're winding it down. I'm gonna do the contest soon, though. Hold on, I'm just putting
We'll
in
give
a
you
couple.
all the tools.
Well, I can't give
Oh
you
yeah,
all
let's
the
figure out the
tools.
contest.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish. I'm almost done with the tools.
Okay.
I got a whole bunch.
Oh, I see the contest giveaway channel. Is everybody in there? If you don't know what the contest is, if you go to discord.rollforcombat.com and put your name in there, Steven's going to randomly give somebody a beginner box for winning the raffle. This was donated by Tiger Eyes from the chat, who gave a gigantic super chat and said it was so that we could run a raffle for the beginner box. So you can go to we were going to do it on the stream. We couldn't figure out how to
Well,
randomly
I asked a couple people and they said, how do you do it? This is you don't.
Yeah, you don't. Okay.
They said that. I was like, they said on Twitch, there's a million ways.
There's a Twitch. Yeah, I know how to do it on Twitch.
Oh, yeah, there's a million ways, but it
YouTube.
said on YouTube there's 0. So
You
I was
can't.
like,
Okay, so we're going to do it on discord.rollforcombat.com. So get on there quick and just like put your name out there for it, or however Steven's told you to do it at the top of the channel, and we will give out that beginner box.
Yes, hold on.
To whoever wins the raffle. And
that is
this beginner box that I'm not this exact one. You'll get your own that's shrink wrapped and did not.
No, they get
have
yours,
my
Mark.
hands all over it.
Ooh, that would be actually good. You could sign it, but we're not doing that because it's too much work.
That is.
It's a lot of
What
work.
do they need to do in that channel? By the way, Steven, it doesn't have instructions.
It does. There's a pinned message. Just say hi or something. There's a pinned message. Yeah, there's a pinned message.
Oh, okay, good.
So contest giveaway. So yeah, just do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, do what everyone else is doing. Just put in anything.
Well, mostly, yeah, just something like hi, hello, whatever.
Then Steven will grab it up, and one of you will win a beginner box.
Here we go.
To get your journey started for Pathfinder.
Yeah, let's. I'll give everyone to 8:30. So you got 4 more minutes.
You got 4 minutes. Discord.rollforcombat.com. It looks like a lot of people in chat who have their beginner box seem very happy about it. I'm seeing people saying that it's fantastic. That is good. I'm glad that you like them. People are comparing it to the D&D and saying it's like twice the price but 10 times the contents. That's probably accurate compared to the one that is $20 from D&D. Let's see. People are correctly noting that you do not need the game mastery guide to GM for Pathfinder. That is correct. I highly recommend it, even if you think that you're like, I'm an experienced GM, I don't need a book that's just going to tell me that some players are role players and some players are into the rules, because most of the game mastery guide for Pathfinder 2e is full of the stuff that you need as a game master who wants to level up your game mastering. Things like variants for the rules, subsystems so that you can handle heists or like negotiations or things like that, and just extra tips for how to use things that can be harder to adjudicate, like rarity. So I just recommend it. It's got some NPCs in the back for if you quickly need to have a farmer who's going to fight the PCs, and you're like, they need to be able to fight at least credibly. It's like, okay, it throws apples and they do damage. It's hilarious. The farmer could actually have a decent chance to kill like a basic skeleton, because they do bludgeoning damage with their apple. They could throw an apple and kill a skeleton. I like it. Craysid the Snail suggests in chat that you can get some free additional free adventures from Free RPG Day, such as the Fistful of Flowers Leshy adventure, Threshold of Knowledge, and Big Trouble in Little Absalom. Absolutely correct. Free RPG Day is a yearly holiday where like free products go up online from certain companies. Paizo loves to contribute to that, so you can find free adventures from Paizo online by looking up Free RPG Day, or Fistful of Flowers, the most recent one. Everyone's like a plant creature called a Leshy, and that one is very good. They're all pretty fun, so you can check those out if you want. That was suggested in the chat. Let's see.
People are putting up Drax memes, and I think for the rest of my life that's going to be something.
There you go. Is that the highlight, Steven? Can you can die happy now that you've been Drax? You were Drax the Destroyer.
Look, it's like nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it. He's my favorite. I love it. I love his like. It's like I'm invisible. I'm moving.
So Merlin Dex is
one.
wondering if there's a D&D Beyond type of character creator for Pathfinder 2e, because we talked about Path Builder, where you just pay once, or don't pay at all for the free version. Pay a small amount once, you get a lot. And we talked about Wanderer's Guide. They're great. They're free or mostly free. But if you want something that is super deluxe experience, that is going to give you like a version of the rules that's like, whoa, it just added things from multiple books together for my fighter. They're all for fighters. And it looks like I'm reading a book, and it's been optimized like I'm reading it directly out of a book on my screen. It's got all of that experience, but is also very expensive, kind of like D&D Beyond. There is that, and it is made by the people who actually made D&D Beyond before Wizards acquired it. Demiplane, Adam Bradford, all the same people behind D&D Beyond created something called Pathfinder Nexus. So Pathfinder Nexus is not only is it like a D&D Beyond, it is as close as it can possibly be, except for that they learned all of the lessons from what they would have done differently after D&D Beyond, where it's like, oh, after this time we realized that if we could have it to do again, we could make some changes. They learned some of those and put it in to Pathfinder Nexus, is what I've heard. I haven't, obviously, they're not completely done with Pathfinder Nexus yet. I think it has some of the features they plan on adding, but not all of them. So can't do a point-by-point comparison of the finalized version, but if you are into that kind of model for like the most deluxe one of those kind of character builder plus, you can get Pathfinder Nexus. Many people make do with Path Builder Wanderer's Guide because they are free, or in Path Builder's case, you can pay a little bit to get some more functionality, and they do a lot for what you get, but you certainly can't get all of the features of Pathfinder Nexus anywhere else.
Okay, it has ended. I closed the channel, so...
You closed it! Who won?
Hold on, I'm doing some sorting here. I'm gonna do this.
I'm wondering if it's someone who's still watching, or if it's one of our regular Discord people who just lucked out and happened to be like, what's going on? I guess I'll post in here.
Well, believe it or not, almost every single person here is new.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, I think it's also good if it went to one of our regulars, but I would even more rather give it to one of the new people who was here on this stream.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just doing a few things here.
People are pointing out in the chat, which I will point out, that Pathfinder Nexus has your and Paizo together have your back for PDF purchases, which I think is different than what you would deal with in D&D Beyond. If you buy on Pathfinder Nexus, you're also going to get the PDF, and that's included. And if you already had the PDF in advance, you get a discount on the Pathfinder Nexus version because of that. So it's like kind of considered to be a linked sort of situation. So you will not just have one or the other with Pathfinder Nexus. It's part of what makes it a very deluxe experience for your character builder and more. Right. People also, Chris McLaren pointed out, Pathfinder occasionally goes on a humble bundle. And Chris McLaren realized they got one years ago, some Pathfinder books. That's true. Especially when there's a really worthy charity or some other reason or whatever the magic of the marketing decides, there will be occasionally a humble bundle, and they always think really carefully on the people who are selecting the humble bundle. They get their heads together across different teams and pick humble bundles that synergize well, and that have some kind of theme where if you get the whole bundle, you're learned. The one time the different tiers of the bundle gave you the different parts of the Strength of Thousands Adventure Path, which is in a magic school in that called the Magambia in that Mwangi Expanse, the Africa type of the setting. And it also had the book. That bundle also had the book for the Mwangi Expanse setting guide, and it had a whole bunch of adventures that took place in the Mwangi Expanse and other materials, so that you could feel the theming from that. So they'll often do some cool themings with the humble bundle, but it's not all the time. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that you just wait for a humble bundle. But if you're the kind of person who would not have been able to purchase anything without the humble bundle, and you're just using Archives of Nethys, but you might see one go up, and that could be your chance to give some support to a worthy charity and the creators.
Okay, we have about 975 rows here.
Okay.
In Excel, I'm just doing some cleanup, and then I'm just going to randomly select someone.
Because
I'm in here
right now, so stay tuned to see if you won a beginner box.
All right, hold on. I'm just.
Steven's getting close. He's going to random from these rows.
I'm taking some people out. I'm taking me out.
You're not allowed to win.
That's
this,
all right.
Steven.
It doesn't matter.
I'm actually going to ban you if you. I think you didn't quite give me the power to ban anybody, but I'm going to find a way to ban you anyway if you give yourself this,
I wouldn't.
Beginner box.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, there's some mods and stuff I'm taking out. All right. So, all right. It's going to go to a random number generator, and that's the easiest way. I'm going to go right now. Let's see. Random number generator, and the min is 1, and the max will be, oops, that's the wrong Excel file. Goodbye, Excel file. 972. 972. Generate number, go! 461.
461. Who is 461?
461 is... Gotta go to live channel. Gritzaplex. Gritzaplex, you won. So I will...
Gritzaplex. Is Gritzaplex on here?
Let's see, Gritzaplex.
Is Gritzaplex still watching?
Yeah, I hope so. I'm gonna contact him via the.
All right.
Go.
Well done, Gritzaplex. You got this.
Here we go. I'm gonna send him a message. Congrats, you won. You won the free box. Get in contact with me, and I'll arrange delivery.
So I'm gonna be the disruptor this time, Steven. You have a list, and it's easy to randomize it. Do you want to randomize one more time and maybe give something else to somebody who is not Gritzleplex.
Sure. I will
Okay.
give
See,
out.
everyone, I got you guys something. I don't even know what it's going to be.
Either do I, but I have a feeling I know what it'll be.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, Gritzleplex is a good name.
So somebody else who is not Gritzleplex is about to get something. It will not be a Pathfinder Beginner's box.
Yeah.
That's
you
the
here,
only thing I know for
Gritzleplex?
sure.
Or your name might be something else. Your name might be something else in Discord and YouTube. So anyhow, let's see. I'll give out dragons. I'll give it a free
Dragons!
hardcover book
Yeah.
of dragons. Okay, so one person.
That was the longest book that I wrote literally every word in so far, but I think it's going to be beaten by some of the ones that we're doing.
Yeah. If you already have it, I'll give you something different. But we'll talk. So let me do another random number generation.
Battle Zoo Ancestry Dragons for Pathfinder 2e, because this was the stream of learning about Pathfinder 2e. You can play a dragon. It's got, how many heritages do we have in there? It's too many heritages. It's like 50, some very high number of different dragons you can be.
Well, there's 45 different types of dragons.
45,
but then when you
that's what it is.
Wow, you must be tired. You never forget anything.
I know, right? I'm pretty tired. I can't remember how many there were, but there's a horde system. Here's a really crucial one that's in here for all of you who just converted from 5e and you really want to convert your Dragonborn character. There is a Draconic Scion that is not all the way dragon, but if you put that on a human, they are somewhat dragony. So they have a variety of different appearances depending on the Draconic Scion, but you could use the art you commissioned for a Dragonborn character on that. And it's got cooler fire breath and other things that it can do. This dragon book gives you a lot more options for fire breath and ice breath and different things than you would see with the Dragonborn character. So who won this one?
I'm just doing some searching because I selected someone, but they were ineligible. I'll leave it at that. Well, because they were they were one of my mods and stuff. So.
Oh yes.
Okay, it is number 384.
384.
And that goes to...
Nobody knows who that is.
No one knows. Nobody knows. I don't know. How do you pronounce that? Banksy?
Oh, yeah. It's got a 4 instead of an A and a 1 instead of an I.
Yes. So,
all right. Is Banksy with a 4 and a 1 in here? You got it. You won Dragon.
I will get in touch with you. I'm going to send you a link. I'll send you a message right now. Where are you? Oh, there he is. Message. Hey man,
there we have it.
Just won a free book. Contact me and I'll get
that.
There we go.
I'm now forgetting the other one. It was like Mitzelplex, except
Mitzelplex,
Superman.
But it's not Mitzelplex. It's Mitzelplex, but it's Grixelplex.
Oh yeah, Gritzleplex and Banksy. I hope you really enjoy the beginner box and dragon book, respectively.
Yes. So
Omega Rogue LP asking the important questions: do the Draconic Scions have tails? The answer is, if you want them to, because they have different amount of draconic features depending on your character.
Okay.
So
oh my god, it's almost 9 o'clock. I gotta go. I'm starving. I have not eaten dinner and I'm dying here. So
that is reasonable.
Because it's almost 9 o'clock.
Everybody, take care. And if you have any more questions, you're on the Discord now, I guess. So just ask me. I'll hit you up with an answer. It looks like Gritzleplex responded in the Discord, Steven. So take care. We'll see you there. We'll have more content for you later as well.
Yes, and we're going to go out with the intro. It's going to be the outro too.
The outro. Thanks to Double Critical Fail.
And I'm probably not going to stream tomorrow. Although, are you streaming tomorrow, Mark?
Yes. Linda and I are going to build a monster that is based entirely on chat. So if you want to come to twitch.tv/arcademark, can you link that in there? I can put it in there too. Basically, to show you This is actually, I should have mentioned this earlier, obviously, too, because of the people who are in this stream. To show you how easy it can be to build a monster in the Pathfinder 2e, because it makes it easier for you with the rules, we will be building it. It's like a Twitch plays building a monster. You just vote for whatever you want, and we will build a monster in real time with what you voted, making a monster. It's going to be great. So I am streaming tomorrow. It's going to be short compared to these gigantic streams.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be probably working all day tomorrow. Anyhow, thanks everyone. Hopefully we'll talk to you not tomorrow, because 3 streams in one day is my limit. See ya.
Bye.
Sam, can you hear me? On your left.
Is that everyone?
But you wanted more?
Avengers!
Listen.